Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Poway Unified School Board. It is, what's the date again? January 18th, 2024, and it is 6:02. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast, so if you're here, you might be seen or heard on that recording. Caution. I now invite you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For our report out of closed session, Clerk Couvret.
Thank you. Closed session began at 4:06. The Board of Education took the following action in closed session. 2.1A, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number ADR 12112023, on a motion by Patel.
Turn on your mic.
It's on. You can't hear? I'll move it closer. Would you like me to start over? Yes. Okay. Is that better? Oh, yes. Okay. Sorry. Report out of closed session. Closed session began at 4:06. The Board of Education took the following action in closed session. 2.1-A, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number ADR 12112023. On a motion by Patel and a second by Couvret, the board voted unanimously to approve the settlement agreement. 2.1B, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number ADR 12072023. On a motion by Seitzma and a second by Couvret, the board voted unanimously to approve the settlement agreement. There was no other reportable action, and closed session ended at 5:52.
Thank you, Clerk Couvret. Item 3.3, please note that all 6 board members are in attendance. And 3.4, welcome to the public. Ms. Trivedi.
Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Board of Education. If you would like to address the board on any agenda item, please complete a speaker slip. All requests to speak must be submitted to the clerk of the board before the agenda item comes up. Speaking time for agenda items is 2 minutes per speaker and 12 minutes total per item. If you would like to address the board on a non-agendized item, you may do so under item 4.2, public comments. Speaking time is limited to 2 minutes per speaker with a maximum of 30 minutes total unless waived by the board president. There will be a 30-second yellow warning light when time is running out. Speakers may only speak on one topic under item 4.2 and may not defer their speaking time to another individual. If there are concerns regarding specific individuals, it is preferred that the speaker refrain from naming them publicly to respect their privacy. The board will accept and review any written materials that would provide more specific information. The Brown Act does not permit board action or extended discussion of any item not on the agenda, but your concerns will be referred to staff. With that said, welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Ms. Trivedi. At this point, item 3.5, approval of the agenda sequence. I would like to move item 7.1 forward to item 4.4 as a presentation. Any other changes from staff or board members? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dr. Patel.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Plotsky. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you. That takes us to our student board representatives. Hello, everyone. From Mount Carmel High School, Asha Jahanian. Come on down.
Hello. Hi. Okay. Okay. Good evening, Poway Unified Board members. I'm Asha Jahanian, Mount Carmel's ASB treasurer. I'm so excited to share with you the events that have been going on at Mount Carmel, so thank you for having me. November was the start of our Mount Carmel basketball season. The Red Sea has been showing their support for both the boys and the girls team. Our winter sports have been doing great, and our Red Sea, like always, has been showing their endless support. At the start of December, our drama department showcased all their hard work so far at their annual winter concert and assembly. They joined choir, orchestra, and band as they brought their winter wonderland to the student body. MC Dance Troupe took us through a fairy tale of emotions at their winter concert. On the first day back from winter break, ASB proudly had our famous Welcome Back, where students entered campus through our tunnel on our red carpet with all of us cheering them on to make the journey back to school a little more exciting. Last week, ASB revealed our High School Musical winter formal theme, and that we will be all in this together on February 3rd at our venue, CSUSM. Our High School Musical theme pep rally was a big hit as the students played an MCHS-inspired decathlon and cheered on our boys basketball, cheer, and dance performances. Our Hoop Coming game will be on February 2nd against Westview at home. This game mimics the homecoming game, the football game, but without the fireworks and floats and for basketball instead. I'm very excited to announce that our PBS special video was released on national television, highlighting the 4-time award-winning Red Sea. ASB has recently kickstarted the process of working on our infamous Blacklight Pep Rally, which will be in March. This year has been amazing so far, and I'm so excited for all of the wonderful things to come. I would like to thank you on behalf of Mount Carmel for your time, your dedication, and constant support. We're looking forward to our WASC school accreditation visit at the beginning of February, as we can't wait to show visitors on our campus what makes it so great to be a Sun Devil. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Asha. From Poway High School, Jazzy Nguyen.
Good evening, PUSD board members. My name is Jazzy Nguyen, the ASB president of Poway High School. I am thrilled to catch you all up on what the Titans have been up to since we last met. Over the winter, we had a fun-filled holiday season. To spread holiday cheer, ASB sold reindeer grams for 50 cents that allowed students to send a kind note to someone with a candy cane to brighten their day. We sold over 200 grams that were then delivered to classrooms by ASB, bringing a smile to students' faces. In addition, during the last week before break, ASB led our Winter Spirit Week, including dress-up days like Pajama Day and Ugly Sweater Day, to cozy up before the much-needed break. Within athletics, our wrestling team did exceptionally well in their recent matches. As of now, Poway is ranked 1st in the state and 4th in the nation for wrestling. All wrestlers are ranked, and we have 3 first-place athletes. I would first like to give a huge shout-out to Angelo Posada and then Paul Kelly for winning the championship in the Doc B Invitational, one of the toughest tournaments. To celebrate all of our winter sports, we held a winter sports pep rally where we brought out all the teams from girls water polo all the way to roller hockey. At this rally, we also revealed our new Titan mascot, Tommy the Titan, who will continue to make appearances at sporting events and pep rallies such as our Powder Puff pep rally tomorrow. The Lady Titans are getting ready for our 3rd annual Powder Puff game. We have both junior and senior teams coached by football players that will be competing with each other this Saturday. After weeks of practice, our girls are ready to play rain or shine. The winner will move on to play the Powder Puff team of our rivals, the Rancho Bernardo Broncos, making the ultimate Super Bowl Powder Puff game on February 4th. Our clubs are staying very active through our 2nd trimester. Coming up in February is the Spring Musical, where our Titan Theater will perform The Little Mermaid. The actors, musicians, and tech team are putting in endless hours to put on this exciting show. Tickets are on sale now, and opening night is February 2nd. The Auto Club is currently preparing to host their club car show at Poway High School coming up in March. Our agricultural program, FFA, Future Farmers of America, has a variety of animals such as rabbits, dogs, goats, and cats. As a part of a breeding project, they just bred one of their rabbits, Moo. They are hoping for babies at the beginning of February, giving the agricultural program a hands-on experience for their class. Thank you so much for your time today, and Poway High thanks you for all your dedication.
Next is Grayson Miller from Bernardo Heights Middle School. Welcome, Grayson.
Good evening, board meeting members. My name is Grayson Miller, and I'm the current vice president of ASB at Bernardo Heights Middle School. Over the past few months, we have been doing great things. Just before school started, we held tours and team building where we welcomed the 6th grade class to the campus and built friendships early on. This consisted of a tour, Kona Ice, and many more fun activities. After the first few weeks of school, we hosted our first school dance, themed Alice in Wonderland. It was a smooth process, and the students seemed to love it. Another event we put together was the movie night just before Halloween. This showed the original Ghostbusters and was a great family night for our school. These events featured games and delicious snacks such as cotton candy and popcorn. We are now progressing into our third all-school event, which is coming up next Friday, the 26th. It is a dance which is themed Welcome to New York. Apart from dances, we have been accomplishing great things in academics. Throughout the year, 8th graders have been working hard to learn their constitutional challenge cards. In December, the challenge took place over 2 days and showcased the talent and intelligence of students who participated. Also in December, our library was granted $8,500 from collaboration and from Otter Cares to build a collaboratory Bobcat Den where students can use collaboration and problem-solving skills to learn. Outside of school, we have ACES Sports. This showcases sports such as basketball, football, cross country, and more. In cross country, our Bernardo Heights runners traveled to Mount Sac, where the 8th grade boys team placed third out of all schools participating. Our football team had a successful season, ending with a winning record but not making it the district championship. And today, our basketball team is participating in the district championship against Black Mountain. Also, we assisted in running a food drive in November, where we ended up accomplishing great things and helping many. Finally, we have multiple field trips planned and a couple accomplished. So far this year, Avid has gone to San Marcos College, and Jama has gone to Disneyland. We also have 6th grade camp quickly approaching. We are also hoping to get Knott's Berry Farm approved for the 8th graders. Overall, we have accomplished great things at Bernardo Heights this year, and we can't wait to accomplish more. Thank you for having me and listening to the amazing things Bernardo Heights has accomplished this year.
Thank you, Grace, and well done. And from Monterey Ridge Elementary School, Elle Higginbotham.
How does one become a butterfly? You have to want to learn so much that you are willing to give up being a caterpillar. Good evening, PUSD board members and staff. My name is Elle Higginbotham, and I am a 5th grade student at Monterey Ridge Elementary School. This year, I have had the honor of being our school's student council president, and last year, our student council vice president. So far this school year has been a very positive learning experience for all. Here are a few things I would like to share that have helped us maintain this thriving environment. Throughout the year, we have continued to be a No Place for Hate school. Our school is pleased to represent 39 different languages on our campus, and we want to continue ensuring that every monarch is heard, seen, and valued by all. One event our school has participated in is Red Ribbon Week, which promotes kids to stay healthy and not do drugs. In the beginning of the week, we tie ribbons on all of the trees and posts throughout campus. Every day of the week, there's a spirit day and a slogan that goes with it telling everyone not to do drugs. During that week, we also had our book fair and multicultural night, which is always a huge success for students to learn about other cultures and communities. Another thing Monterey Ridge participated in this year is Start with Hello Week. Every day has a different kindness activity to accomplish that day, like say hello and introduce yourself to 10 people today, or invite one person to play with you today. Simple kindness acts can make people's days and even spark friendships. Start with Hello Week is a great week to branch out and expand your circle. Caring Connections is yet another event that Monterey Ridge partook in. Since there are over 600 students in our district experiencing homelessness, we set up a drive where you can donate everyday essentials like items such as toothbrushes, toothpaste, shampoo, body wash, blankets, and many more things. Student Council put up posters outside of school and in the cafeteria. We also advertised through Friday Flag and morning announcements for everyone to make sure they donate. In the end, we collected many items that will help families in need. Thank you to everyone who donated. There are many student leadership groups who make our school a better place. I would like to acknowledge them because of what they have done for us. Safety Patrol is outside every morning and afternoon, making sure all pedestrians are safe. Peace Patrol roams the playgrounds of the TKers, kindergartners, and first graders, ready to help if needed. The No Place for Hate Committee makes sure that everyone is included and their voices are heard. Our Hope Squad is there to ensure all students have connections and a friend when they are in need. And last but not least, Student Council helps with all of the events and drives around our school, as well as weekly Friday Flag assemblies. We all began as caterpillars, but throughout our time at Monterey Ridge, we all learned to grow into flourishing monarch butterflies. On behalf of all the students at Monterey Ridge, I wanted to thank every one of our extraordinary teachers, staff, character coaches, parents, and community for uplifting and supporting us throughout our elementary school era. These years are truly marvelous for every student. Thank you all so much for granting me this opportunity to share what Monterey Ridge has achieved this year. It has been a true honor to speak in front of all of you. Thank you.
And thank all of you. You are undoubtedly the highlight of tonight's meeting, and you're right at the beginning. So it's all downhill from here, but thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you. And if you'd like to stay and find out what's so great about the rest of the meeting, you are welcome to. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. We're about to start with 4.2, our public comments. If you would like to address the board, please fill out a public speaker request and submit it to Ms. Anderson before the agenda item is called. Speaking time is limited to 2 minutes per speaker with a maximum of 30 minutes total, so submitting a card does not necessarily guarantee you will be able to speak. Reminder, if you have concerns regarding specific individuals, it is preferred you refrain from naming them publicly. Appropriate complaint process information can be obtained again from Ms. Anderson. The board will not allow any disturbance or willful interruptions of our meeting, and we have an expectation that everyone here will conduct themselves with decorum, respect, and civility. With that in mind, Clerk Couvrette, please call our first speaker.
Rochelle Babler.
For those who don't know, on May 30th, 2023, at the end of this last school year, PUSD Superintendent Marion Phelps engaged in what can only be described as a massive abuse of power following the Del Norte Softball Team Awards banquet. Ms. Superintendent Phelps concluded that her daughter Jessica did not receive a loud enough applause for her teammates when she went up to receive her award. Following this awards ceremony, Marion Phelps launched a witch hunt, which began calling student players on the team that night and threatened that they would not be able to attend their own graduation. She continued to bully and harass several of the softball players and then targeted one of them, threatening to ban her from extracurricular activities, including playing on the softball team and attending her own graduation this year. Marion Phelps lied, bullied multiple students, threatened them, and used her position as superintendent to push her agenda through. Many now call this scandal Clappergate. Many months ago, this PUSD board was made aware of all this wrongdoing and has been provided mountains of evidence that conclusively demonstrates egregious wrongdoings by Phelps. This board has refused to do anything about it. In fact, when a Del Norte softball coach came forward with damning information against Phelps, rather than investigate his claims, you allowed him to be fired. Instead of terminating Phelps, you have hired an outside law firm at taxpayers' expense to conduct an independent investigation into the softball team, but not into Phelps. This is outrageous. I am so glad the news is here tonight. I am now calling on local elected officials to look into the injustice against our community's children. This scandal has brought a lot of attention to the PUSD community, and people are shocked and disappointed. There are senior students, athletes right now, whose last year in high school and mental health and well-being have been shattered because of this injustice from the blatant lack of action from this board. For the sake of our children and injustices that have occurred, for the love of God, please do the right thing.
Rebecca Oakley. Rebecca Oakley.
PUSD's board policy that keeps a student's transgender status hidden from parents assumes parents are the enemy and assumes school faculty members are all perfect angels who only have the best interests of the students at heart. A deranged faculty member can easily use this secrecy to groom a child and eventually sexually abuse that child. We have all heard about the lawsuit stemming from sexual abuse of children. A November 2023 LA Times article wrote that the LAUSD will pay nearly $20 million to settle a sexual abuse claim against a former teacher at an elementary school. A July 2023 article states that a Sonora Union High School district here in California settles a lawsuit in another sexual abuse case for $3.5 million. An article I found dated yesterday states that 2 Orange County school districts will pay a total of $4.8 million to settle sexual abuse cases. And an article from December of 2023 states that a Santa Barbara school district will pay $25 million to settle sexual abuse cases. Parents are not perfect, but neither are teachers. Allowing teachers to keep knowledge of a sexual nature about a child hidden from parents will only fuel sexual abuse of students at school.
Melinda Hunton, or Huntoon?
Board Bylaws, BB 9270A, Conflict of Interest. The governing board desires to maintain the highest ethical standards and help ensure that decisions are made in the best interest of the district and the public. Accordingly, no board member, district employee, or other person in a designated position shall participate in the making of any decision for the district when the decision will or may be affected by his or her financial, family, or other personal interest or consideration. The fact that you, the board, have not put the superintendent on leave at any point during the last few months is very telling. There is clearly a conflict of interest, and yet, instead of removing her to be able to get clarity, you've allowed her to sit here and stare at the very students she has targeted since May of 2023. I added up all the other settlement litigation just for the month of December of 2023, $107,000. This is money that could have been used for your students. Instead, it is being used for the ineptitude of the superintendent and this board. Parents and taxpayers, I'm speaking to you guys. There are now 4 law firms that are involved in this case regarding our superintendent and the Del Norte softball team during various phases. 4. Can you imagine the amount of money being squandered away because this person, instead of coming to her senses, has decided to double down, all on your dime? This board is so complicit, not only in this case, but in many more cases, such as special education and IEP suits, both pending and on the horizon. We know as parents you find us uninformed and naive, but more and more people are waking up. And although most people in this room would rather be home with their families enjoying dinner, they are here because you are not doing the jobs that we elected you to do. Jobs as simple as procuring an elementary PE teacher. More to come on that one. Why are employees being prioritized over students? Why would these families want to involve themselves in such a stressful situation if there is no truth to it? Why?
Alan Stockton. Alan Stockton.
My name is Alan Stockton, and I've been the JV softball coach at Del Norte High School since the school opened 13 years ago. I spoke here 2 months ago about the toxic environment around the softball program. The entire atmosphere has been this way since Superintendent Phelps launched the false allegations regarding Clappergate and bullying made against her daughter. Both have been refuted by hundreds of testimonies and video of the banquet showing that none of this ever happened. Even the principal of Del Norte High School said the bullying accusations were only on the fringe of what is considered bullying. Yet this board chose to believe the superintendent and investigate the softball program for bullying instead of looking into the superintendent who's caused this entire mess. The board has been aware of this situation for over 6 months, and here we are still without resolution. Meanwhile, Superintendent Phelps still hasn't been reprimanded or suspended while all this has been going on. If anyone else employed by PUSD would have done this exact same thing, they would have been fired immediately. How can the person in charge of the entire PUSD not be held to the same standards that this board itself lives and stands behind? All coaches and employees of PUSD are required to take mandatory training each year. It teaches us if you see something, say something, which we have. All we've heard from the board is they have received the quoted misinformation reported against the superintendent and taken no action. Again, the superintendent has committed a fireable offense, and yet you've chosen to do nothing against her. The high school softball season starts in 3 weeks, and the girls have no idea who their coaches will be. We do know that the 2 coaches who stood up and challenged the superintendent are not being asked to come back. She said she has never fired a coach, but the 2 that have spoken out against her are not being asked back. How does that happen? Again, I've coached 13 years with the Del Norte softball program with not one grievance or complaint against me, and I'm perceived to be part of the problem. As of today, I still have not been interviewed about this entire situation. How does the board not see what's going on? Open your eyes and ears and do something. Yes, it takes integrity and courage to stand up to your superintendent, but someone needs to do it.
Shane McCool. Shane McCool.
Thank you. I'm not as interesting as he is. President of Argentina, Milei, at the World Economic Forum this week said, social justice does not contribute to the general well-being and is an unfair idea because it's violent. Since May 2021, I have spoken out about the anti-Semitism PUSD students routinely put up with in classrooms. You ignored me, ignored the California Department of Ed's Ethnic Studies plan, and chose the Liberated Ethnic Studies curriculum, which encourages your teachers to write, teach, have discussions that are offensive to Jewish students, probably white students, and Asian students too. And then you self-congratulate yourselves on how inclusive you are. Jewish parents spoke at your October, November board meetings about your Westview teachers' harassment and intimidation of students 2 days after the October 7 massacre in Israel. Now, we have documentation that a Del Norte ethnic studies teacher told students to join BLM protests. BLM, the anti-Semitic, happy Jews were raped, beheaded, mutilated, burned alive on October 7th, BLM. This is more documentation that we are holding on to for the right time. There are groups watching, there are students watching. When leadership in this district will not effectively take a stand against the ongoing intimidation, harassment, and bullying of students in classrooms, none of us community members, parents, students should be surprised that they have no problems spending our tax money hiring lawyers to defend dishonesty and bully tactics. Along these lines, you put my subject in your November 9 minutes as ethnic studies. The main idea of my speech that night was an activist teacher, and tonight I should be listed as just that too. Someone is editorializing the public comment subject in the minutes. Finally, you can keep training your teachers to break ed codes, civil liberty laws, teach your ugly curriculum, but know we are documenting it.
Byron Yabuso.
At last month's board meeting, I called on the members of the board to take action publicly to indicate whether you feel the alleged abuses by the superintendent, if true, would be acceptable to you. I further asked you to take a vote on a resolution to adopt a written policy requiring any school administrator, like the superintendent, to recuse him or herself from investigations and remedial actions involving a PUSD student, like a daughter, where a conflict of interest might exist. Under the circumstances, I view these as minimal, very reasonable actions. I'm aware of no such remedial action by the board or its members. Instead, you hired a law firm to conduct an investigation of the high school's softball team and publicly solicited people with information about that program to come forward and assist in that investigation. Ms. Patel's statement that the objective of this law firm investigation was, quote, to ensure all students feel safe and supported, unquote, is hard to believe. What is easier to believe is that you are engaged in a cover-up, possibly using a law firm to intimidate witnesses. By all appearances, you have apparently concluded that the accusations from the many people who have spoken up in past board meetings and reached out to you in other ways and laid out in nearly 100 pages of publicly available complaint and supporting documents are without merit. That is unacceptable. You must take action now, and you must do it publicly. Otherwise, I think it'll be fair to assume that you are turning a blind eye to serious, patently credible allegations that the superintendent has abused her authority to bully the very students you and she are supposed to protect, and that you are siding with the superintendent against PUSD students and their families. Regardless of whether the allegations of the superintendent against the superintendent are ultimately proven in litigation, maybe months or years down the road, I hope the voters in this district will hold you accountable for your response to these very credible allegations, hold you responsible for your actions or lack thereof. I, for one, feel it is my duty to do just that.
Stuart Cook.
Parents in this district have been insulted and called abusers of our own children by people that work for the school district or people from collaborating groups like JEDI. All because some of us don't want our children to have their genitals chopped off or for them to be given powerful drugs that can make them infertile or cause stroke and heart attack. Here's a quote from the World Health Organization about their newest guidelines for gender-affirming care. Quote, "The scope will cover adults only and not address the needs of children or adolescents, because on review, the evidence base for children and adolescents is limited and variable regarding to the longer-term outcomes of gender-affirming care for children and adolescents." Unquote. The WHO is acknowledging that there is no credible evidence to show gender-affirming care is appropriate for minors, especially long-term. So why the hell would we give our children drugs and surgeries if the WHO says there's no evidence for it? If rational parents are advocating for what the World Health Organization says, and the WHO is the science, perhaps the school district should stop attacking and vilifying the parents, as the rational parents are the ones aligned with the science on this issue. Again, to reiterate, the WHO cannot provide guidance on gender-affirming care for minors because there's no clear evidence showing that it's beneficial or appropriate, especially long-term. So now, are people affiliated with the school district going to continue calling us abusers because we dare to disagree with them? Because the science of the WHO is in agreement with rational parents like me, not extreme activists from the school district.
Softball player?
Good evening. I'm a softball player at Del Norte High School. My teammates and I can't even describe the stress our softball program has been under since our banquet last May. When we heard that the superintendent was angry with our teammates at the banquet over an applause conspiracy, we were in shock. We all attended the banquet and cheered for everyone. None of us could believe that our superintendent, a mom on the team, could threaten so many student athletes with being unable to attend their own graduation over something that they did not do. The way the people who have reported the superintendent have been treated is equally as disgusting. Our coach has been retaliated against, causing him to lose his job, and unfortunately, because of the circumstances, her continued presence at our school's events causes many of us to feel stress and anxiety due to fear of intimidation. Now we are weeks away from starting our softball season, and nothing has been resolved. Instead of trying to address the superintendent's actions, the school board has investigated our team, claiming that we are misinformed. So let it be said. We are uncomfortable with this district employee on our field, running our snack stand, invading our locker room, and overseeing our fundraising. Please set an example as leaders of our community and do what is right, so that us student athletes can feel safe and heard on campus. We are asking you to do what is best for the students involved and prevent this person from hurting our program more than she already has. Thank you.
Frank Shu.
Good evening, Board Trustees. So for the softball team case, you have spent way too much money of taxpayer dollars. So let me iterate. So you hired Atkinson, Anderson, Lawyer, Rude, and Romo, Mark Breeze, in July to handle the first complaints. And that firm failed to do his job. And then you hired Winnett, Patrick Gare, Creighton, and Haynes, Aaron Hayes to defend Powell Unified School District and other named defendants. And you hired Devaney Pate Morris and Cameron William Pate to defend this bully, Marion Phelps. And you hired Dennis Oliver Kelly to investigate Del Norte High School softball team. So see how much money you have spent. You had the opportunity to do your due diligence to spend less of taxpayer dollars. And you still have the opportunity to do so. Talk with Dennis and ask him for a report now. And you will immediately see some red flags there. And you will realize that this person is not defensible. So stop wasting taxpayers' precious dollars, resources to defend this Joe Smith. Thank you.
Makiko Gunn.
My name is Mikiko Gunn. I'm a mother of 2 students at Black Mountain Middle School. One of my sons is a victim of disability discrimination by our 7th grade teachers, our assistant principal, and district program specialist. When I asked our principal for help, he ignored me. The only thing he did was bang on my vehicle to intimidate me and my children on campus, and stopped our son's 101 aide from communicating with me because she advocated for our son. Then our school admins, teachers, and the district personnel retaliated against her. When I filed a UCP complaint against them, the district failed to conduct a fair and impartial investigation, just like the one at Del Norte High School. The district intentionally failed to interview witnesses who had first-hand knowledge of our claims and disregarded relevant statements and proof that supported my complaints. The teacher who discriminated against our son went on an extended leave to avoid the investigation, and this year she was allowed to return to our campus with no consequences. She had the nerve to talk to my son again. So he reported to me immediately, feeling frustrated and worried. I still have to keep assuring him that he is safe on campus. But is he? I shared the information with the board more than 2 months ago, but no action has been taken by the board at all. So when I heard about the superintendent bullying a high school student, I learned that the superintendent and the board were the ones who are promoting bullying culture throughout this district. I demand the board to take immediate action against these personnel and the superintendent. Please provide a safe and supportive environment for our children. Thank you.
I did want to mention that Napur Balaya, I'm going to move you to 8.5 for environmental. It was supposed to be on a pink slip instead of the white one, so you'll be speaking at that agenda item.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Couvrette. That concludes our public comment. That takes us to item 4.3, Facilities Condition Assessment Update. Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. This evening, staff and team will share the results of a data refresh related to our school's major maintenance systems. Next slide, please. This update is part of our larger facilities master planning work that we've been embarked upon for the last 6 months. And although it is only a component of our FMP, deferred maintenance certainly represents a critical piece of the puzzle, and regularly recalculating it is best practice. Next slide, please. Here are a few of the terms that you'll see throughout the presentation. We've defined them here for you ahead of time. And at this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to our Director of Planning, Ms. Roshbach.
Good evening. Before I pass the presentation on to Mark Reddish from Amoresco, we want to give you a brief background. Sorry, Rich, next slide, please. Just a quick background on how we got here and where we started. So as you can see from the slide, we began this work back in 2018. We did our first asset planner round where we had Amoresco and their team come out and capture all of the systems throughout the district at every school. So they walked every site, captured every asset, and created a database for us in their software called Asset Planner, which is what we use to track all the systems at each school site, help us develop project lists, and also just keep track of the life cycles of all of our schools. You can see we did that work May through July. We came back in June, and they did some of those QC work before we did a final presentation to the board to provide some information on where we stand as a district in our facilities. One of the interesting pieces is that there was 811 total assets in this district, and that's 4.5 million gross feet. So that's a gross square feet, excuse me, across our district. So we had a lot of their staff walking and looking at everything, and we have a really wide database that allows us to look at what's happening at all of our school sites. What Mark is going to get into is kind of where we are now. Mr. Little went over some of the terminology. One of the things that we find important is what our FCI score is and how that affects the life cycle and our needs on campus and all of our campuses. So in 2019, you can see we had a deferred backlog of $94 million across the district. At that time, our score was 7.1, and I believe, was that our target 7? 8? I think it was 8. Our target was 8. And you can see we got critical in our FCI numbers around 2032, we got to 30%. So this time around, as we started working on our facility master plan, we felt it was a good opportunity to come back and say, what have we done since 2018? What do our facilities look like today? Have we made some improvements? Can we capture a lot of those projects and put them in a system and update and see how we've impacted the life cycle of some of our schools today? So what Mark is going to do is kind of go through that work and what that looks like in this year.
Thank you. My name is Mark Reddish. I'm with Amoresco's Asset Sustainability Group. I woke up today in Minnesota where it was 5 degrees, and I'm very, very happy to be here today. Thank you for having me. So this
Next
project,
slide,
next
Rich.
slide, please. This project is a refresh. So in 2018, 2019, we built this big data base for you, and it's a web-based system that the district has been maintaining for your capital plan. And so this effort was to go in there and refresh the data, make sure that it's up to date, and so that there's all the confidence in it that you needed. We had an exercise where we asked staff about what capital projects have been completed since the initial condition assessment, what new construction has happened. We added soft costs to the database. Soft costs would be a uplift that you put for things like design or for licensing and permitting and those sort of things. It's an important part of capital planning to have both hard and soft costs in there. And then part of the assignment was to come here and represent this data back to you.
Next slide.
So I want to make sure that everybody understands what life cycle is as it relates to facilities. So in terms of the scope of what was assessed, if you pick a building up and you turn it over and you shake it, whatever doesn't fall out is sort of a capital item, and that's what gets assessed. And every one of those building elements has a life cycle to it, as stated by the manufacturer. The manufacturer of the lights say that our lights will last for 17 years, the windows will last for 20 years, whatever it is. What we did in our assessment was we documented what building elements you have and where they were at on their life cycle. So if they were expired, they're in your deferred maintenance. If they had life left, we said, here's when they will expire, here's how much it's going to cost. So it's just the best approach to capital planning. Instead of it being just a spreadsheet of projects, this is a database-driven approach. And what we wanted to illustrate with this slide here is that a typical school building has a 50-year life design to it. And during that time, you'll see that systems cycle over and over again. So a roof might need to be replaced 3 or 4 times over the length of that, over the life of that building, interiors, et cetera. There's some predictability, but also at that 30 to 35-year mark on a building, that's when things start to get more expensive. The major systems come due. So we want to always be tracking the age, and once you reach that point at 30 or 35 years of age, it's important to have a plan in place because systems will start to expire. Important to note when
Next slide.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just on the next slide.
Important to note when a system expires, that's not to say that it fails. But from a capital planning perspective, you want to know it's expired. It's time to plan financially for its replacement. So this is a dashboard that we pulled out of the asset planner, which is the web base that you have. Square footage is slightly down since we first started. There's slightly less buildings since we first started. That CRV total, the current replacement value represents if you had to replace all of the buildings in your portfolio with a like for like, what would that number be? And you can see the buildings are 1.23, the site elements are 371. It's about $1.6 billion. So as a real estate company, you have $1.6 billion in assets. You might be one of the biggest real estate companies in the county. Interesting to think. And also, the average age of your schools are 32-plus years. So as we said, right at that 30 to 35 year mark on a school design, that's that reflection point where things start to get expensive. So I'm glad we did the work that we did 5 years ago, and I'm glad that we are revisiting. One more slide, please, after this. So this is years across the bottom, dollars going up, color-coded by discipline. So, for example, the orange is the shell and the mechanical is the red, et cetera. This is using 2023 as our start date. There's $185 million in deferred maintenance. That's to say that there's $185 million of building elements that have expired in your portfolio. Everything to the right of 2023 are all of those building elements whose life cycles will expire according to the manufacturer. So again, we can just plot forward. You can use this judiciously to understand how much need you have now, how much future need you're going to have, what sort of contracts you should have, what sort of skills you should be hiring for, all those sort of things. But if you'll recall, we started the exercise in 2019. There was $94 million, and we're about double right now, 5 years later, at 185. Not surprising, buildings age, and they're expensive, and you have a huge portfolio. Next slide, please. Part of our exercise was to not only to establish the life cycle and the condition, but we wanted to ask some priority questions so that you could sequence projects appropriately, which had the most risk for the district. The way that we did that was we had our assessors answering some questions like the building element that I'm looking at right now, is there a life safety implication? Is there a code implication? Could the state of this building element shut the building down? Is there an adverse effect on security? If the answer to any of those was yes, a weight is put on that element. If there's more than one yes, it's a heavier weight. The heavier the weight, the higher the priority. So you have thousands and thousands of building elements, and every one of these building elements has had this same sort of prioritization matrix applied to it. So there's the $185 million, and you can see there's about 68% of your deferred maintenance is urgent or high priority. I do this nationally. I do hundreds of millions of square feet a year. Your mix is a little bit off there. We usually see it at about 45% with high priority and urgent items, so that number is a little bit high for you. I'll make some other observations about some of the other pieces here, but that's just something to note. We're going to make a recommendation about doing a prioritization workshop with you and sort of flush out what's making up those items. If it's a operational or energy savings that's driving the urgency, I'm not concerned. If it's something that could shut the building down, that's where we want to sort of flush it out and bring it to everybody's attention. Next slide, please. So whereas we've been looking at the stovepipe chart, this is a cumulative view of the liability, and there's the $185 million in 2023. You can see in a 5-year jump, it's going to double. In a 10-year jump, it's going to triple. This is not throwing any funding against it. This is just, father time is undefeated. Buildings age, and as they age out, they just get to be expensive. Next slide, please. So one of the asset management metrics that we use in this conversation to understand what's an appropriate level of funding, what's a tolerable amount of risk, is called FCI, Facility Condition Index. It's what we had talked about with that 7% at the front here. FCI was developed by the Navy in the 1980s to try to understand for a given building what percentage of its value was in deferral. It's a great benchmarking tool to say this building versus that building, which has more deferred maintenance. Brand-new building has 0% FCI. Essentially, what we're doing is we're taking the replacement value of the building or the portfolio, dividing it by its needs that were uncovered during the FCA and coming up with the percentage. $300,000 house, $100,000 in needs, it has a 33% FCI. So we want to track your portfolio and see its FCI. We want to look at each individual building and understand its FCI. And we want to use FCI as a target, where as a district you say, we want to maintain this sort of FCI. The asset management industry says try to maintain a 10% FCI. That's a tolerable amount of risk. Keep your urgent items out of there. Don't have urgent priority items in there, but try to maintain a 10% or lower FCI. Kind of depends. It kind of depends on what your identity is. So next slide, please. So you are currently at an 8.9% FCI, and I told you I do this with hundreds of clients each year, and you're in my top 5% for FCIs. So incredible stewardship to date, but you have challenges to come because of how steep your needs are. Your needs are coming at you very quickly, and that line has a pretty steep ascent. And you can see here, in 10 years, you're going to go from a fair position to a critical position. So 0 to 5% FCI is good, 5 to 10% FCI is fair, 10 to 30% is poor, above 30% is critical. So we watch that, and then on the next slide, please, we can see, we asked, what has been your average annual capital allocation? And it's about $1 million. It's 1.1, I think, $million. No, sorry, $1 million per year has been your average annual allocation, and you can see it does very little. So the black line at the top is that needs line as it goes up, right? That's the one that started at $185 million all the way to the left and goes to $1 billion over 30 years. If you continue to put $1 million at it, you can see it's not going to do very much. We just said earlier, in 10 years, you'd get into the critical, and your $1 million will not staunch the bleeding there. So we can get into the software and we can ask the question, how much money would we need each year if we wanted to reach a certain asset sustainability target as defined by FCI? If you want it to be an 8% FCI portfolio, which is what we had established the last time we did the exercise in 2018, 2019. And you'll see that's a pretty staggering number. But instead of the $1 million that you put at it right now, you would need annually $38.5 million over the next 30 years to keep yourself at that 8%. At your current position right now, that's the capital allocation that would be required. So the $1 million is obviously not sustainable. That's not a sustainable approach to maintaining your facilities. The good news here is that you have all of the data that you need. It's been refreshed, and you can do a number of what-if scenarios, and you can do the proper planning that you need now.
I think that's the last slide.
That was it.
Yes. And we're here for questions if you have questions.
It's a lot to swallow, I know.
Sorry, as I'm soaking that in. Any questions for our presenters?
I have
Dr.
a quick
Patel.
point of information question. I will probably have more as I think about this a little bit more, but a quick one. On your last slide, on the actual graphic, you have 38.5 million per year over 30 years, but on the sidebar, you say 37.5 million. I just want to, I mean, these are large numbers.
Those are.
But $1 million is also a large number. So
True.
do we know which one is the correct number that I
So,
should be thinking about?
It should be, so the number that you'd need is 38.5. And so if you, I think on the blue insight on the right is that 38.5 minus the current $1 million of funding would be 37.5. I think that's why
That's right.
that's
Okay,
on
in
there.
addition to the 1 million.
The delta is 37.5.
So we're including that 1 million, but the 1 million is actually used for just regular routine maintenance, and it's not really for infrastructure repairs and improvements.
I understand it to be capital.
This entire study is mostly about deferred maintenance.
Okay.
So the $1 million that we annually allocate is for deferred maintenance needs.
So
It's
this
sort of a
isn't going to
different ling-
cover.
It's different lingo
Yeah.
depending on your sector here.
Understood. So this isn't covering any major capital improvements. This is just deferred maintenance or maintaining our facilities as they are.
This is not, and another important point to make on that, this is not new construction. These are not new construction numbers.
Other questions? I appreciate you calling it our incredible stewardship up until now. I'm going to quote you on that. Being at an 8.9% FCI seems like we're right in the zone we were hoping to be. I do appreciate quantifying what this additional 37.5 million represents so that our board, our entire community understands that's 1/5 of all of our teachers. We could lay them off and find the money. 229 counselors, we don't even have that many, so we could lay off all our counselors and not even be close. Or K-5 class sizes of 40 students each. So no problem there, we'll just add 15 kids to every classroom. That's not gonna affect anything, right? So I think our challenge here, and this is not your job, clearly, I think I'm pleased to have the numbers and the assessment, but the 37.5 million is not going to be coming out of our general fund. There is absolutely no way we can do that. I appreciate quantifying what that number is, though, because 37.5 million might not sound like a lot to our community when you're contemplating a $400 million budget. But it is, and it's significant, and we cannot take that from our children. So the buildings are a real challenge for us, and I think we're all aware of that up here, but hearing the number is new. I've never heard it before. So I appreciate that, and thank you for the presentation. I was looking at your slides ahead of time, didn't understand a lot of them, but you talking them through helped quite a bit, so thank you
Thanks.
for that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments before we move on?
Just one more comment, that the state doesn't provide us anything more than the $1 million roughly a year. So we do have to come up with this money ourselves somehow.
Correction, the state will match any funds that we
True.
put out that our community agrees to help us with.
Yes, if there's a bond that's funded.
Yes, not all the time.
Yes.
We missed our opportunity last time. There's no money currently hanging out waiting
Right.
to match for us at this point. Okay, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. I know the next
Thank you.
item that we moved forward is 7.1, but I'm going to call a short recess right now at 7 o'clock. School chiller plant design. Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. This evening, staff and team are pleased to share with the board the design for the new chiller system servicing both Rancho Bernardo High School and Bernardo Heights Middle School. As you know, the board set aside $10 million as general fund reserves to resolve this issue. To date, we've expended approximately $750,000 on temporary measures to keep the system operating. So at this time, staff is confident that there is sufficient budget to cover the estimated $8.5 million project cost of the new system and deal with any necessary measures this coming summer and fall. So with that being said, I'll turn the presentation over to our Facilities Director, Mr. Harris.
Good evening, everyone. Before we begin, I'd just like to thank the board for allowing us to use the reserve emergency funding for this project. Also like to thank staff and students for their patience, continued patience, and my M&O team, in particular the HVAC team, for keeping up with the day-to-day maintenance associated with this chiller. I'd like to share the timeline of design of the current chiller project affecting RB High and Bernardo Heights Middle School. We presented the chiller degradation history and the current status at the September 8th, 2022 board meeting. In October, we then hired a design team to perform a feasibility study of performance and financial impact of 7 design options. The feasibility study, which took nearly a year to research and complete, culminated in the selection of the system design we are presenting tonight. Since August of 2023, our team of experts have been working on the detailed work and final project design. Tonight, we sought board approval on the consent agenda to hire a construction team. Construction is scheduled to begin in May of this year. I would like now to introduce that team that I'm speaking about. Gerardo McAplin and Dan DeBrow with Mosher Drew, architects, and James Del Monaco with P2S Engineering, who will now walk you through the project.
Good evening, all. Thank you for the invite. We're going to present to you what we've been working on as to how to resolve the issue with the HVAC system in the central plant at the Rancho Bernardo High School and the middle school. Next slide, please. So this is the site plan that we, the school site plan, and we found out that one of the biggest problems here is all the hydraulic lines being underground. And what we're trying to do is we're going to replace all the system, including the equipment and the lines, and refeed the buildings at their point of connection. I'm going to introduce to you Nick from P2S, our mechanical engineer, and he's going to talk about the initial part of the connection, and then I'll get back to how we route it throughout the campus, the lines.
Good evening. So this is an aerial view of Rancho Bernardo High School where we're showing the exposed chilled water and heating hot water piping that we're routing above the arcade system. We're demoing all of the equipment inside the central utility plant and providing new air source heat pump chillers and providing 2 new connections with temporary cooling for Bernardo Heights Middle School and Rancho Bernardo Heights.
Next slide. This slide is an aerial view of the campus, and you can see the red lines represent the routing of the new lines. We are taking advantage of the campus design, being that it has a large, an extensive covered walkway that we took as a route to be able to send our lines above ground and connect to the buildings. So if you can see on the top end of that, where we start is coming out of the central plant yard, then crossing the fire lane underground. And the way we're going to do I'll show you in a little bit how we're going to go about that. Then we're going to come in the back of the school with a raised structure that is going to support all the major lines coming in, and then turning to the north walkway. After we connect building 900 and 800, turning to the north walkway, and feed the north side of the campus that way. We are creating new structures to be able to cross over the campus and route the lines without having to go underground. Next slide. So this is an isometric or a 3D view of the same campus where you can see the routing of the lines on the west side and how it goes above the canopies or the covered walkways throughout the campus. You see this crossover at the center where the gymnasium is. We're creating this new canopy or this new walkway to be able to connect the north and the south end of the campus. And this way, try to minimize the amount of lines that we have to send in one direction. So we're splitting the campus in two, and we have two lines that are going to feed the north and the south end of the campus. Next slide. This is the cross at the fire lane. So we're coming out of the chiller plant above ground, and these lines will be protected and mounted on ground with some footings to support the weight. But at the same time, it's going to come above ground, so you can now have access to those lines in case something might happen in the future. Then when we cross the fire lane, we're actually going underground, but we're going underground on a vault that has a covers that we can open up and be able to access the connections or anything that might be failing at a later time. That's one of the issues that we're encountering right now, and it's very difficult to get the lines, and right now they're just sitting in ground, and with the movement, the time, the settlement, they've been separated. So every time you have an issue, they have to go and dig out the line and replace it. So this way, you have access directly to the line without having to demo or replace anything, right? So then we're creating this, what we're calling shaft to go above ground, and then run the lines on a steel structure that will support the lines throughout the campus on the back side of the campus. Next slide. And above all the main entrances to the campus. So this represents building 800 and 900. The slide on the right. We have an intersection there that fits those two buildings. The one on the left is the north canopy that crosses and connects the north side of the buildings. Next slide. And this is the new canopy that we created, connecting the north and south walkways. It just happened that this is at the center of the campus where the gymnasium and the courtyard is. So we wanted to make sure that it's not just another utility structure, and we're trying to blend it in with the current design and conceal the actual pipes that will go above that. These pipes are, they're considerable size, and they're going to be going in and out of buildings. So we're trying to keep the same look and respect the campus since it's a really nice currently. Next slide. Okay, so this is another part where we're creating a new canopy, and it just happens that this is at the administration building, at the east side of the administration building. We're creating this canopy to cross over to the connection point in this building, and creating a new trellis that would provide also shade to the building, which is right now is just completely exposed to the sun rays. Next slide. Okay, this is the technical and the equipment that we are selecting. I'm going to pass it on to Nick in order to give us technical information.
So as Ruben said earlier, a feasibility study was concluded in May of 2023, which informed our design of which mechanical equipment to select. We selected a simultaneous heating and cooling heat pump to replace the existing water-cooled system and the gas-fired boilers. We're providing new above-ground piping for Rancho Bernardo Heights High School. We're replacing the water-cooled chillers and the gas-fired boilers with new heat pump recovery, air source heat pump recovery chillers, which provides a higher efficiency, consumes less water, reduces gas, and provides a lower carbon footprint. In the middle, you can see a isometric view of one of the modules. One of the modules is a 35-ton chiller. The Yorks can come up to, I apologize. I'm trying to read some of it.
So I'm just share, Nick is filling in for our person that was on this project. He had a death today in the family, so bear with Nick. He's just getting caught up with, so, yeah.
I can assure you, Nick, that we're not following anyway.
Okay, all right. There you go.
Awesome. So
There
we're
you
just
go.
replacing the existing water-cooled system with these air source heat pump. They're really high efficient units. They're gonna consume less water, reduce your gas, and lower your carbon footprint. That's the summary. Next slide. This is a before and after. We're demoing all of the equipment in the yard, the ice storage, your water cooling towers, and all the equipment inside the central utility plant, as well as the 6 gas boilers inside your boiler plant, and replacing them with the 4 170-ton modules on the right-hand side.
Next slide.
So this is the, the schedule that we are looking at right now. As you can see, today's board meeting is highlighted in red. We are planning, or we are anticipating DSA submittal on, I'm sorry, yeah, a DSA submittal on the end of the month. This month is going in. DSA is the agency that actually approves our drawings, and we're thinking that it's going to take about 80 days for review, so we can get comments back, respond to our comments, and then a couple days more to get the final approval. The idea here is that as soon as we come out of the DSA, we could start with construction of the actual structures. But before then, as Ruben mentioned, you are actually bringing in a contractor to start the construction part of it, and we are looking forward to team up with them and make sure that we work with this schedule and make sure that we meet the requirement deadlines that we have set for ourselves. The most important part here is procuring the equipment, getting the orders in place, and then wait for the equipment to get in and start replacing all the units. During this time, obviously, as you can see, we're gonna end up heating the summer and again the fall. So we're gonna have to come up with a temporary system. And we're gonna be switching off buildings as we move along until eventually we have all the buildings into the new system. So we anticipate that we're gonna be done by November, somewhere around November 15th, and we'll be able to keep the system going from there on.
All right. That concludes our presentation. Is there any questions that we can field?
Yes,
All
I'm
right.
going to start this
All right.
time. My turn. I see, I absolutely understand the wisdom of putting all of these pipes above ground or accessible below ground. I think we're all
Yeah,
tired
and I
of the
think one thing-
jackhammering of cement every summer.
Yeah, I think one thing to note too, on the RB side, we're just coming off a modernization project. So not only were the pipes failing on that side, it just makes more sense not to damage any of the work that we did. So that was the biggest thing as well, so that all
So my
factored in.
question then is this: we have very detailed schematics of what's happening on the high school side. The middle school side is a similar design. How much build is happening on that side?
So
Is it all?
so when we did the surveying during the assessment, the piping on that side is not failing, it's in good shape. So we're reconnecting it via new fittings, like Gerardo suggested.
So the uphill side, not
Yes,
failing.
yes.
Got it.
Yeah,
All right.
we're, for some reason, I don't know why, none of our experts can explain, but that piping is in really good shape. So that's good, great news.
So though it's still below ground, we're confident in it for at least the foreseeable future, huh?
Yes, yes.
I imagine that's keeping our costs down a bit, so I guess we should be grateful for that.
Yeah, we're kind of fortunate on that end. So everything was assessed, like I said. On the RB side, there was significant failures.
Okay, thank
yeah.
you. Dr. Patel? Oh, yep. Yeah, all right, Ms. Kuvrat.
I have two questions for you. Why was it decided to go with the central instead of putting air conditionings at each individual building?
It's cost. The design at RB, with the pyramid design, there's no footing for that to place the units, but we did evaluate that option, though.
And the other one question I had, I was a little concerned, is some of the runs seem really long from the central area. Is it going to lose efficiency going to those far points on campus?
No, we selected, I think Nick could probably talk about that.
No, we're providing pumps that'll move the water all the way, yeah. And we have redundant pumps so if one ever fails, you have a redundant pump to continue operation while you provide maintenance.
Yeah.
Big thing, probably not for you guys, but did we keep all those portable air conditioners? I think we're going to need them at the end of this year and beginning of next year. Yeah?
We do have them on site. They never left the classrooms. So, but we're confident that the system that we have currently, and again, hats off again to my own team, the HVAC team. They're doing an amazing job with our temporary chillers, getting that up and running and providing heat to our buildings currently right now. So not much will change during this construction. Same system, same design, and then again, confidence in our team to bring it all together. Yeah.
Dr. Patel?
Yeah, so thank you very much for this presentation. I'm excited about the heat pump system. I know that they're a lot more energy efficient, and I know the state is wanting us to move into that direction to let go of our gas dependency, fossil fuel dependency. So I'm excited that that ended up being a good option. I have questions around that. One is heat pumps are known to create a lot of condensation as the air is exchanged. Do we have a process for ensuring that that condensation stays away from buildings or from footings so that it doesn't seep into concrete?
Yeah, all the pipes are insulated.
Okay.
They have a 2-inch insulation all around it throughout the whole process. So, yeah.
And even around the intake, the fans and around that as well?
Well, the heat pumps are in the central utility plant.
Yeah,
They're
so
they're nowhere near the classrooms, so any condensate that's generated on the equipment won't get to the buildings.
Right, so I'm actually interested in that, the facility where the fans are. Because right there is an exchange of hot and cold air as it goes through the heat pump system. And that's where condensation is known to pool.
Correct, and we have there's area drains in there
Okay.
that'll capture the.
Excellent, excellent. And then some of the covered areas, I'm sorry, I don't have a visual in my head, unfortunately, of Rancho Bernardo High School, it's not coming to me. Some of those are existing, right?
Most of them are.
Right.
We're actually creating 2 new ones. to
So
be-
a lot of those are struggling? Or did those get fixed when we did the site improvements at Rancho Bernardo High School? My concern, just to help you
Yes.
track
Dr.
my
Patel.
train of thought.
So I know which ones you're talking about specifically. Yeah, so repair work was made.
Okay.
I believe they're all correct. I don't know. I'll double check on that to make sure. But yes, I know there was a significant repair work done on the existing frames.
Okay.
So, and that was evaluated as well. Just one thing, going back to Ginger's comment on the package units. So coming from the Inland Empire, I was like, oh, let's do that. It'd be great, right? It's individually controlled, but it's just not possible. But again, we did evaluate all options.
Okay, so we won't have an issue with any of those walkways failing or needing to be repaired and having these pipes
No.
hanging there,
No.
waiting for us to do those
Yeah,
repairs?
and I think a couple things to note too, that we're not dependent on making ice
Yeah,
every
that's
night,
great.
which was a struggle. Very frustrating too for staff and M&O staff and our teaching staff. So we're glad that that's going away. So
Yeah, thank you.
no problem.
Yeah, so, okay, I'm just trying to understand this schedule, be that as it may, when you're actually working on the campus and this is happening, what, if any, disturbances will this cause for the students? Is it all during the day? Is it gonna be after school?
We're gonna have to work throughout the schedule, the school schedule. And we're trying to come up with a isolating plan of the areas that we're gonna be working on. Trying to get the most of the demolition done during the summertime. And that's why we need to coordinate with a contractor who's gonna be doing the work. So basically, it's isolating areas where we're gonna be working, keeping putting a fence, keeping the kids away from that area, finish that up, move to the next one. So it's a very intense project, and it's going to take a lot of coordination. It's not gonna be an easy project, that's for sure.
No, no one even assumed that it was gonna be something of this magnitude.
Yeah.
Just, concern for them to be, trying to stay focused with everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I had two questions, and I've kind of forgotten them now. One is, Cindy had pretty much asked and answered. I wanted to know about the, like I said, it's kind of gone. So I'm gonna not ask anything, I guess.
I'll jump in then, and I think this is probably a question from Mr. Little. This is a very long timeline. We allocated 10 million for this. I feel like we're going to be over it. How much additional money, where are we going to fall by the time November comes around? We have our spare pump that we've rented, and how much is it costing us additional to keep the AC rolling through November? How over budget are we?
Well, I'll start, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but these are sort of just back of the envelope. So we spent $750,000 to date, as I mentioned, on keeping the system running. So that was this summer that I went down, and this past summer, actually. So that's 2 summers worth of chiller rentals and some minor repairs. So that's 750, we're adding to that the 8.5 million, that's 9.25 million. That leaves us 750,000 left from the 10 million to get us through 1 season. So I think we're in good stead. I think, again, back then we were renting chillers at $60,000 a month, right? So we probably need 2 chillers, I'm guessing, 2 or 3. So probably, I'm not an engineer, so don't quote me on that number. But I think we're going to be fine in terms of getting through the hot months, which we're talking about, right? August, September, October, and then this comes online in November. So we're talking about 3 months. I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah, I have no way of holding you to that, but it makes me happy to hear you say we're going to be on budget. So, any other questions? Yeah, you remember, go for it. Ms. Plotsky.
So the computer rooms and a few other of the technical rooms were on separated ACs before. Are they going to be into this pipeline now, or are they still going to be separated?
No, they're still going to be separated.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, one last question. Have we, and maybe this is between Ron and Ruben, you, since it's going to be a heat pump, is this going to take care of the heating and the cooling?
Correct.
Right, going forward. So do we have an estimate or a prediction on our cost savings as we go in? I mean, long-term, there is going to be some cost savings.
Yeah, we're not.
Or is it just going to be fractional?
Can you talk about that, Dan?
In terms of
Energy?
Yeah, life cycle.
Yeah, I think it was in the feasibility report, which is what resulted in the conclusion of the air source heat pump.
Yeah.
But I don't have those numbers on the top of my head.
Yeah, we can get them for you.
We'll get you those numbers,
Yeah.
but it was in the report, so it was very comprehensive. So, and
Yeah.
there were some minimal savings.
Thank you.
That looks like it.
All
Thank
right.
you
Thank you,
all
guys.
very
Appreciate
much,
it.
gentlemen. Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
That takes us to our consent calendar. I'll go down the row here first, and I know we have a few public polls, but I'll start down at the end. Ms. Trivedi, anything to pull? No? No? Ms. Plotsky? No? No?
We have speakers on 5.3B, 5.3C, and 5.4D.
And is there a motion to approve minus those three items?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Dr. Seitzma, second by Dr. Patel. All those in favor? Aye. All right, that is 5-0. Let's go to 3B. As soon as I find it. Okay, 5.3B, ratification of district purchase orders, revolving cash fund expenditures, and purchase card transactions. Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. As the title suggests, we're asking the board to approve all the purchase orders, $5,000 and under, $5,000 and over, as well as our revolving cash fund expenditures and our P-card transactions, and this is for the month of December 2023. So obviously, we do this monthly, and this is just what we expended last month.
Thank you, Mr. Little. And for the public comment, Clerk Couverette.
We've got Melinda Huntoon.
I was curious on line item 24. It says Apex Fun Run of Southern California, the fun run fundraiser fee. Is there a reason why that is in a general fund? And I know you guys can't give answers back, so if you could direct me on who.
We sure can
Oh, you
answer.
can?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you done with your comment before I answer?
That's the first one. I
This
have
is
like
an
3 things.
agendized item, so we can answer that. If you notice
Okay.
in the far right-hand column, there's an asterisk.
Uh-huh.
That means it will be paid back to the general fund by a
Reimbursed.
site. Yeah,
Okay.
by the site.
Okay. Okay. And then on all of the settlements, it just says settlement expense, but I couldn't find anything to go along with those. Is there a place where you can look and find like the specifics on each one of these settlements?
I believe those are confidential. So the reason that we don't put people's names there is because it's a confidential agreement that we've come to with the other party.
Okay. And is, like I say, I added up about $107,000 for the month of December. I haven't been following these, but I know you probably do. Is that kind of an average of what the school district is paying out on any given month, or is that
You know,
out of the
to be honest, I've
ordinary,
never
or-
looked at the average, so this particular group is not atypical, I would say.
Okay. All right, that was it.
On that note, any questions from the board, or is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Plotsky, second by, thank you, Dr. Seitzma. All in favor? Aye. That passes 5-0. The next item pulled was 5.3C. Hey, it's the next one, that's easier. Thank you. Acknowledgement of enrollment report, number 4 for 2023-2024. Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. This is our enrollment report for the period ending December 1st, 2023. So this is for month 4, and you can see that we're reporting 31 students over month 1 with an attendance rate of 94.42 for that month.
Clerk Couverette.
Tim Doherty.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Tim Doherty. I'm a parent, longtime volunteer at my school and the community. And just wanted to see, or I guess more just discuss how little disappointing it is to see this every meeting, every month. This is kind of buried in the consent calendar. And I think it's a bigger issue. You know, it's even come up in some of the past meetings in terms of the attendance rates and the funding that's tied to it from some of you. And I feel like it would be better served, maybe being discussed a little bit more in depth at times. Your comment about the increase of 31, if you dig a little deeper into the item there's been a decrease of the high schools of 40. When I look at the little graphs there, it looks like that might be the largest decrease in probably 5 years when I look at the graphs there. As far as attendance goes, right, 94.42 this month. If you add up the 3 months, it looks like it's about 82 basis points lower than the start of the year. So it's gone down every month. And again, you know, some of the members have brought up that issue and the funding tied to it and how that might work. I feel like there could be some better conversation, maybe a slide deck, a page or two, just so the public can understand what that means to the district and what might happen if that continues. Maybe that's just seasonality. I know it's flu season just kind of peaked. So maybe that is seasonality and I just need to be educated. But I think just monthly there could be some more in-depth conversation around that. It's just my opinion. So thank you for having me. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm hearing him say that he would like our meetings to be just a little bit longer.
No, I'm not saying that.
Thank you.
you
Is
just-
there any question from the board? No? Okay. I'm sorry, did you have time left? I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt you.
I'm speaking on the next one too, so.
Oh, okay, we've got to approve this one first. Is there a
No
motion to
problem.
approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Dr. Patella, second by Dr. Seitzma. All in favor? Aye. Okay, that, Ms. Plotsky, I didn't see your vote. Yes? Aye? Thank you, that's 5-0. Okay, next one was... D. 5.4D is approval of the 2022-23 school accountability report cards, the SARCs, for elementary, middle, and high schools. Ms. Peterson.
So as the agenda item indicates, the state law requires all public schools receiving state funds to prepare and distribute the school accountability report card, referred to as the SARC. And the SARC must be updated annually and published by February 1st. The SARCs that will be published upon approval reflect data from the 2022-2023 school year. And the purpose of the report card is to serve as a public-facing document that can report out in key areas pertaining to each of our school sites.
Clerk Kuvret.
Tim Dockery, thank you.
Hi again. Thanks for allowing me the time. This one similarly, I'm sort of disappointed and shocked really that we would bury this into the consent calendar. Last meeting I was here and talked a little bit about the results from the state testing. Over 2/3 of the schools in the district decreased year over year in English. Almost half of the schools in the district decreased in math. We're still not at the 2019 levels. So, these SARC reports clearly have all the data. Unless I missed a meeting, I don't know that there's been any real in-depth discussion about the testing, the results, the year-over-year performance. So to just bury this in the consent and just kind of rubber stamp this across the board is a little disappointing. This data has been out there since October. Again, I don't think we've talked about it here in depth, intelligently, with some sort of a presentation like we see with a lot of other items. I'm also, I think I mentioned, volunteer for a while at the school. That includes the school site council. You know, the SPSA, similar thing. You know, it seems like we just kind of rubber stamp those when the time comes, and there's no real discussion or highlights about that. I think the public would enjoy knowing that rather than hearing from me. You know, a nice, you know, understanding where the data is, how we did year over year, how we did compared to past years, I think would be helpful, unless maybe there's something in the near future that's coming up where you'll do that. So, thank you.
There actually is a report that will be presented to the board on both our school dashboard as well as an LCAP update, local control accountability report, and those updates will occur in February, and that is where we review year-over-year data and report on our most recent assessment data.
So, may I ask a question to that, or am I done or out? So does that, why would that happen so far after the approval? Wouldn't you want to look at the scoreboard, look at the data, look at the results, and discuss that before just kind of stamping the approval of the SARCs?
The SARC data reports on the 22-23 school year.
Right.
Reports on that data, so it's a year in the rears. The upcoming report is reporting and reflecting on current data and the steps we take moving forward.
Current CASP data?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any questions from board members? All right. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve these?
Motion to approve.
Thank you from Dr. Seitzma.
Second.
A second by Dr. Patel. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. That's unanimous. That takes us to 6.1, initial proposal for contract reopener negotiations from the Board of Education to the Poway Federation of Teachers, 2024-2025. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President O'Connor-Ratcliffe. Currently, we have a 3-year agreement with the Poway Federation of Teachers that ends on June 30th, 2026. Under the Government Code, Section 3547, the presentation and adoption of the district's proposal for contract reopener negotiations is a 2-step process. This evening, this item is presented as information only for initial review and public knowledge of the district's proposal for reopener negotiations to the Poway Federation of Teachers. The initial proposal for reopener will be presented once again on the February 8th board meeting agenda for a public hearing and any comment, and of course the final adoption and approval by the Board of Trustees. This initial proposal allows the parties to negotiate a limited number of articles in the contract and what will be year 2 of this current 3-year contract. Also, it's important to note that the Poway Federation of Teachers will also present their version of an initial proposal that will be presented on the February board agenda, which will include additional articles that they've identified. Tonight, as I had mentioned earlier, this is for information only for initial review.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. So in February, we'll have our second reading and the actual vote on this opener. Any questions at this time? All right, thank you very much. 7.2, the governor's January budget proposal for 2024-25. This is the good stuff. Thanks, Mr. Little.
Thank you for that vote of confidence, Madam President. This evening, we provide for the board a high-level review of the governor's budget proposal for 24-25. We'll focus primarily on the K-12 budget and potential impacts to Poway Unified. Tomorrow, our finance team travels to Anaheim to hear school services analysis of this proposal. I'm sure they'll learn more that will add to our understanding. So tonight, we're presenting just our first impressions. Next slide. Just as a reminder, this is the process that the state follows in developing their annual fiscal budget. The January proposal is the first step of that process and is formed by fiscal and other data from the period of July 1 to December 31st of the current fiscal year. Next slide, please. Based on the Department of Finance's estimate of the state's budget deficit over the 3-year budget cycle that we talked about last meeting, the minimum funding guarantee defined by Prop 98 would be reduced by $14.8 billion over the 3-year cycle. You can see here that the last year, 2022-23, would be reduced by $12.1 billion, going from 110.4 when the budget was enacted to 98.3 as a result of the current deficit. The current year would be reduced by $2.7 billion, rebenched from $108.3 billion to $105.6 billion. And then we have next fiscal year, which represents the governor's budget for K-12 for Prop 98, K-14, $109.1 billion. Next slide, please. So while this is certainly sobering news, it's worth noting how far we've come in terms of the state's commitment to funding K-12 education. Considering the current funding model, the LCFF model, which went into effect in 2013-2014, Prop 98 funding will have increased 85% since then by next year, based again on the governor's budget, nearly double. Next slide, please. So we're going to turn our attention now to the governor's budget related to K-12 and focus on the key upside points of his budget. So the good news obviously is that the budget deficit that the LAO said was about $68 billion just a month ago has been diminished by his team, the Department of Finance, his team's estimate of a deficit of $38 billion. Much more manageable. Prop 98 is sustained year over year through the governor's proposed use of the state's general fund reserves, as well as the reserve that is reserved for Prop 98. School districts in his proposed budget are spared any major reductions in funding in the current year, that's this year, and next fiscal year. The LCFF base remains the same, and a very modest COLA is funded, including on special ed. Let's go back one slide, Rich. I want to note one more slide. There we go. So in the past, when deficits like this would happen in a current year, the state would typically make adjustments to prior year and current year budgets within this proposal in January. So there may be some current year reductions, what we call mid-year reductions, or there may have some deferrals from the year prior to help with balancing the prior year budget. The governor explicitly said that he wanted to hold school districts harmless during this budget cycle, and so again, reiterating his commitment to K-12 education. Moving forward, next slide, please. Next slide. One more. Very good. So the not so good news in the governor's budget proposal. So we've seen how the budget, how the COLA, the cost of living adjustment, has been diminishing over the past 6 months. So we started at 3.94% as a COLA for next year. The LAO said a month ago or 2 months ago that would be closer to 1.27%. And now the governor's own team is calculating it at about 0.75%. We'll see how that impacts us in the next slide. There's no relief for declining enrollment related to the impacts of COVID. The LAO has called the governor's team's revenue projections optimistic but plausible. As we know, solving budget deficits with one-time reserves is not a great practice, right? It doesn't address the underlying concern of expenditures exceeding revenues. The governor's own team predicts multi-year deficits. Looking at his budget, he's predicting a $30 billion deficits in the next 2 fiscal cycles after next year. He's also proposing an increase for the UC and CSU systems, but he's deferring that increase to the following subsequent year, so they will not benefit from that. And related to what I just talked about, where we're solving prior year gaps in budgets, he mentions an $8 billion reduction in K-12 budgets for 2022-23. So the governor's proposing $8 billion of savings to last year's K-12 budgets, but doesn't really go into detail about how that's going to happen. So that remains undefined. And I think as the legislature thinks about his budget and debates his budget, we'll need to hear more about what that entails. Next slide, please. So finally, my last slide here is what it looks like for Poway Unified as we look forward to next year's budget. The reduced COLA, as I mentioned, is worth about $13 million to us. So going from 3.94% down to 0.76%, that's a loss of $13 million every year ongoing, moving forward. The sunsetting of the COVID relief ADA funding formula, we talked about the last board meeting, that was about 794 ADA or so. That's about $8 million of annual loss ongoing. And again, not all of this has to do with the governor's budget. Some of it's just where we are with our own budgeting, right? So the COVID money obviously going away, 48 positions we've moved into the general fund, which were funded with one-time dollars. That's worth a little over $6 million. So currently those 48 right now are in the general fund for next year's budget. I would say that our finance team has purposefully been very modest with respect to our attendance rate increases. And we know that special ed costs continue to increase. So given all those factors and others, we're looking at a range of about $25 to $30 million for our own deficit next fiscal year in 24-25. Our general fund reserve levels will fall down to about 5%, 5 to 5.5%, and we'll be recommending some budget solutions for the board to consider at a subsequent meeting. Next slide. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Since you just said it, what level of budget solutions, what dollar amount of budget solutions are you going to recommend to us?
I don't know that we've had that conversation at Cabinet. I would say that if we were to want to maintain the 10% reserve level, which is the board's target, we would have to reduce $24 million from next year's budget.
Thank you, I understand that. I'm looking for, all right, I know we'll get it eventually here, but that's a lot. I don't imagine that we're going to shoot for 25 to 30 million in cuts. That's what our reserve is for, but
Correct.
5% is pretty darn low if we have a second year of deficit by the state. I'll go down the line before I ask any more questions. Dr. Seitzma?
I'll start with one. So could you remind us again the difference between a 5% and a 10% reserve, what that covers?
Well, a 10% reserve, we were at about now, is about, where are we here? About $60 million, right? So if we don't do anything, our general fund balance will be reduced next year by about $30 million. So it's half of what we'll need to close the gap.
Right, and what's the intentions of the reserves, just so, reminder. Just a
Sure.
reminder.
The reserves are for times of economic instability. So they're there to be drawn down and to be used when they need to be and when the board feels that it's prudent to do so. I think President O'Connor Radcliffe is exactly right. We can't close $24 million budget gap in 1 year. So, using some reserves next year is a reasonable and prudent approach to helping to solve the budget problem.
Like covering the chiller project.
Well,
That came out of reserves, yes.
That did come out of reserves. Yes. That's true. So that's $10 million of reserves that are not available for this particular problem or this particular use. Yeah.
So this is extremely sobering, as is the facility situation. So basically, we're short about $50 million between the shortfall and the facilities, which is dire. Can you explain, what does the governor mean by going back to 22-23? I don't understand what that means.
Sure.
Sorry.
Well, remember, we talked about this last meeting, but the state has a 3-year budget cycle, and it basically consists of the current year, so in this case 23-24, the prior year, which is 22-23, and the subsequent year, which is 24-25. When the state receives tax receipts in the current year, some of that is used to reconcile the projections from the prior year. So there's always this sort of lag between where did we end last fiscal year and how do we go back and make it whole with respect to Prop 98 particularly, versus where are we now in the current year in Prop 98. So when the tax receipts came in lower this year by 20 to 25% than anticipated, it brought down the Prop 98 base, and that lowered last year's base, right, which is ongoing. But what the governor is suggesting is we're not going to lower the Prop 98 base. We're going to backfill it with reserves and some other mechanisms so that education stays stable. So his focus is really on keeping stable funding for K-12s and community college districts vis-a-vis the lowering of the Prop 98 floor.
Where you have it written, no relief for declining enrollment related to impacts of COVID, is that going to change the way ADA is calculated? Is it going to go back to the former way of current year, or is it, so it's not going to be 3 years out anymore, or averaged? It's going to be?
No, you can still use the 3-year average. You can
Okay.
use the better of the two, but you won't get, that 1 year won't get the little bump up, which we were allowed to use the year before COVID as one of those 3 years.
Okay.
And now we can't.
Okay.
So it'll be deflated.
Thanks.
Couple of questions. They may seem tangential, but I'm looking for money.
Okay.
One of them is, what are we doing to recapture some of the low-income students that used to come in through filling out of free and reduced meal forms? I know that a lot of districts are looking at just universal, I'm making this into a verb, but universalizing the completion of those forms in their enrollment documents, that everyone just completes one as a matter of practice, regardless of whether you think you need one or not. That could help us with some of our funds, as well as, as Mr. Doherty had brought up, ADA. Typically, before COVID, we were seeing ADA around 97%. And we're clearly 3 percentage points down from that. What first of all, what does each percentage point represent dollars-wise in budgetary funding, just to remind the board and the audience? And what are we doing to bring those numbers back up to pre-COVID levels? Sorry, Ms. Peterson, there were a couple of questions in there.
That's okay. I was tuned into a couple of things going on. So your question is about attendance and our concerted efforts to increase attendance. Is that,
That was part 2, yes.
Okay. So yes, we have had ongoing conversations with all the administrators at our school sites. And there is a lot of data out regarding what makes a difference for improving student attendance. Because of the significant social emotional needs of our students, there is, all of the data points to and recommendations point to creating spaces and personal connection so that students want to attend school and believe they belong at that school. So to that end, we have attendance teams at each of our school sites that do personal outreach when students are not in attendance, if they're unaware of why they're absent. If it's reported due to illness, that's not our area of focus unless it treads into the chronic or heading towards chronic. But when students are not attending, our teams do personal outreach. Why aren't you here? You belong here. You matter. And through that personal outreach, we're finding out interesting reasons that we can help to address. I was speaking with an elementary school principal just yesterday about the notes that she is personally sending to students and how students are communicating with their parents about how they really need to be at school. One little girl at elementary school said that I have to be healthy in 2024. It's my personal goal. I can't be out sick. So it's those personal touches like that through our counseling teams, through our attendance teams, and our assistant principals that we find is making a difference in improving and increasing the attendance rates. That said, we are in cold and flu season, and there is an uptick in COVID and the flu. And so all of that said, we still have very cautious parents who are keeping their children home when they're ill.
Mr. Little, can you remind us what is each percentage of ADA difference costing us in dollars?
Yes, so it's about $4.5 to $5 million per percent.
Okay.
Right, so I think for next year's budget, we have 95%, right? But if we were at 97%, we'd be looking at $9 million more based on attendance.
And then with those free and reduced meals, that would help contribute towards our supplemental funds from the state. So what are we doing to increase capturing the accurate counting of our low-income students?
That's, as you pointed out, many districts are moving to making that a standard part of the enrollment process, not much different than the FAFSA, requiring that all students complete that as well. And it is for that purpose, because when we are providing free meals to every family, we lose that piece of accountability and our ability to recapture funding at the federal level. So as we are approaching our enrollment, we are looking at all those forms and pieces that are necessary so that we can sustain funding where we're entitled to reimbursement.
Our parents may see one extra form in their
They may.
re-enrollment documents this year, but it's worth it. It might
is.
help us save a little bit on the cutting side.
Well, and it directly benefits the students in our district. So by them filling out a form, whether they qualify or not, it benefits all of our students and staff within our district.
Thank you. And then the last thing is just a comment. I did listen to the governor's budget briefing, and he did seem to reassure everybody that there won't be any deferrals for TK through 14. I'm waiting and seeing. I'm not holding my breath.
Ms. Trivedi, questions, comments? No? Any other ones? I'll work our way back up. Anything else? All right. Oh, yes, one more, Ms.
I have one
Plotsky.
more. Because you mentioned Ms. Trivedi, deferrals for UC and CSU systems, what exactly does that entail?
I'm trying to remember, I believe that he's proposed a 5% increase for those two systems. And basically he's saying the 5% increase that you're getting for next year, we can't pay you that until the following year, 2025, 26. However, you can use our increase to borrow money and for an IOU, basically. And then
And pay interest.
And pay the interest from your general fund, basically. Which is the downside of deferrals, right? Is that you have to borrow money if you don't have cash, and then you have to take the interest payments out of your general fund.
All right. Super not encouraging presentation. Thank you, Mr.
Sorry.
Little.
Thank you.
8.1, oh, this is more fun. Approval of resolution number 34-2024 entitled Poway Unified School District Women in STEM Day 2024. Ms. Peterson.
Yes, thank you. This is another one. This is an uptick in the meeting and the tone of the meeting. We are very, very proud to bring this resolution forward, Poway Unified Women in STEM Day 2024. This recognition and dedication was initiated by student Madeline Nguyen in 2020, who graduated from Poway High School in 2022. Women in STEM has grown and opened opportunities for young women across schools to learn about and join robotics or STEM-related activities, courses, and clubs. As stated in the resolution, we desire to close the gender gap by dispelling stereotypes and recognizing the importance of promoting diversity and gender equity in areas of STEM. We bring this resolution forward for the board's approval, proclaiming February 6th, 2024, Poway Unified School District Women in STEM Day 2024.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson, and I know we have some very patient public commenters.
Right,
Ms.
so-
Couvret.
so just one on this one is Brianna Birch.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you so much for supporting Women in STEM Day resolutions. Women in STEM Day allows our community to reflect on the importance of fostering gender diversity and equity within the fields of science, technology, and engineering, as well as mathematics. Women have been instrumental in shaping the trajectory of scientific and technological advancements, yet they continue to be underrepresented within these fields. By recognizing Women in STEM Day, we make it a commitment to address the imbalance it is to By recognizing Women in STEM Day, we make it a commitment to address the imbalance. It is an opportunity to celebrate the achievement of women who have defied the stereotypes and contributed immensely in the world of STEM. However, it is also a call to action, an acknowledgement for more to be done for equal opportunities to eliminate barriers and hinder the full participation of women in STEM. Our educational institutions should set an example of inclusivity, where young minds, regardless of gender, are encouraged to explore their passions for STEM. By fostering a supportive and equitable learning environment, we lay the foundations for a future where all students can thrive and contribute to meaningful and ever-evolving world of STEM. Let us see this moment to recommit ourselves in promoting gender diversity within STEM education. By doing so, we not only empower our students, but we also contribute a more vibrant and innovative, inclusive future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And I see you flying the colors of Team Spider. Congratulations. Any questions? Yes,
I just
Ms.
have a
Couvret.
comment, because my daughter's computer science engineering, and there's 10% women in her classes. And they just got a new dean of their science department. It's a woman, and she says how much that means to her to have a representation. So thank you. And with that, I would like to have a motion to approve.
All right, there's a motion by Ms. Couvret. Whoa.
Go ahead.
All right, second by Dr. Patel. For the vote, Ms. Trivedi, you're first.
Yes.
Yes. And everybody else? Yes. That's unanimous, 6-0. Thank you very much. 8.2 is approval of resolution number 35-2024 entitled Poway Unified School District Robotics Day, 2024. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. As we just heard from our our robotics teams are highly successful and recognized across the country. Our robotics students engage in mentoring other students within PUSD as well as other local schools. Our students also mentor students throughout the world. This resolution recognizes the mentorship as well as the valuable life lesson students glean in real-world experiences through technology, collaboration, and engagement with industry partners. We bring this resolution forward for the board's approval, proclaiming February 6th, 2024, Poway Unified School District Robotics Day, 2024.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. And she's already there, but you can call her anyway.
Serena Faucho.
Good evening, members of the board, and thank you so much for supporting our Robotics Day resolution. Robotics is not merely about gears and circuits. It's a gateway to future where innovation and technology converge to shape our world. On our Robotics Day, we celebrate more than just machines. We celebrate the minds behind them. It's a day to inspire our students, fostering passion for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Robotics education transcends traditional boundaries, encouraging creativity, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. By celebrating Robotics Day, we equip students with hands-on experience, preparing them for a future where automation and artificial intelligence plays a pivotal role. It's about empowering the next generation to navigate a technological landscape confidently. Furthermore, Robotics Day is an opportunity to showcase the achievements of our students. This day fosters a scene of pride and accomplishments, motivating students to pursue careers in STEM. Robotics Day is not just a date on the calendar. It's a gateway to a future where our students lead, innovate, and transform the world. Let us continue to invest in robotics, providing our students with the tools they need to thrive in this technologically advanced society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank you both for sticking it out and hanging out to let us know how you feel about these resolutions so that we can better understand the importance from your perspective, the students.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there a
Motion to
question,
approve.
comments? Oh, we got the motion to approve. Dr. Seitzma, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Dr. Patel. And for the preferential vote, Ms. Trivedi? That's a yes, and everybody else? Aye. All right, that's unanimous, 6-0. Thank you so much. 8.3 is proposed new high school courses, adoption of advanced placement AP English seminar, and unified physical education, a first reading. Ms. Peterson?
Thank you, Madam President. This evening, we have two adoptions that are a first read only. The first AP English seminar is being brought by Del Norte High School, who would like to offer this class for English credit to 10th grade students next year. It's a foundational course that uses individual and group project tasks to engage students in cross-curricular conversations that explore the complexities of academic and real-world topics and issues by analyzing divergent perspectives. Students learn to synthesize information from multiple sources, develop their own perspectives in written essays and through performance tasks, design and deliver oral and visual presentations, both individually and as part of a team. In this course, students will learn and apply important skills, which are transferable to all other content areas and will support their academic success well beyond high school. This is a first read only. The second course, Unified PE, is being brought to the board from the Special Education Department. Staff has been working with Del Norte High School and Poway High School on the development of this class. It combines both students with and without disabilities to participate in physical fitness activities and sports. Students will work together to increase competence and confidence in a variety of physical activities. Course content will be aligned to the state standards, and students who successfully complete the class will earn physical education credits. This is also a first read only.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Ms. Trivedi?
I had a question about the AP English class. Is that something that would be offered at the other high schools soon as well, or just Del Norte?
Currently, it's being brought forward by Del Norte, but once it's available, it can be available at all other high schools.
So is Del Norte kind of piloting it?
Del Norte has brought it forward, and they would like to offer it sooner than perhaps the other high schools, but my understanding is that there is high interest among our other high schools as well.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say I'm so excited about the unified physical education. That I was in tears when I read it. I was so excited. That's way beyond something that we should have done years ago. So I'm super proud and super excited to be able to vote next month on that.
Wonderful. It's very exciting.
I have a question on the AP English seminar. Is there currently an advanced level 10th grade English offered at Del Norte that this is replacing?
Do you mean an AP?
Is there an honors English?
I believe there's honors. I don't know that there's AP, but I would ask Beth Perisic to come forward. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yes, we do have Honors English 10, and this would not replace that course at this time.
Is the expectation that enrollment in that class will fall off to nothing?
I think they're going to wait and see how that goes.
Okay, fine. Okay, no more questions on that one. And I'm with Ms. Plotsky. This unified physical education is something that Dr. Seitzma and I heard about more than a year ago at our annual education conference as presented by board members out of Marietta, and it was inspiring. We brought it to Mr. Mizell, and here it is. This is, wow, this is a benefit of our annual conference. Sometimes the results don't seem this tangible, so it's exciting when it is. So thank you. I'm very excited to see it. Thanks. Anybody else? All right, this is a first reading, so we'll vote next month. 8.4, K-8 Summer School. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. The board will hear a presentation from Learning Support Services Executive Directors Christine Donnelly and Kimmy Lochtefeld regarding use of the remaining one-time Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant funds. These funds were provided to districts with the intent that they be used to address learning gaps as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you so much. As a reminder, Poway Unified received funding for learning recovery initiatives that, at a minimum, support academic learning recovery and staff and pupil social and emotional well-being. Some of that funding was used for K-8 Summer School 2023, with initial plans to offer summer school in 2024 to K-8 students. Tonight, we are sharing a different model of student support that we believe will better meet the needs of students who might be in need of academic support throughout the school year. Summer school was first offered to K-8 students in the summer of 2021 using the ELOP grant funding. This is one-time funding, was intended to offset the impact of the pandemic on student learning. There was a need for more opportunities for student learning on campus, increasing student-to-student connections, and recovering learning loss. We designed our first summer school program to extend the school year up to 4 weeks by offering two 10-day sessions so students could attend summer school for up to 20 days. Students were identified for summer school based on multiple measures in literacy and mathematics. Enrollment was prioritized who were significantly below grade level. There was strong interest, and in some grade levels, there was a wait list for enrollment. For the summer of 2022, we were able to continue the program using the same ELOP funding. After sending priority enrollment summer school invitations, our enrollment showed 65% of those identified at elementary level enrolled, and 29% of those identified at the middle school level enrolled in the program. Then we opened up enrollment to all students to backfill remaining seats, which defeated the purpose of targeted intervention design for those students who are in the need of most support.
So last summer, we funded the third year of summer school through the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant instead of that ELOP grant. For summer school 2023, priority was again given to students identified as below grade level. However, by April, we had limited interest in a significant number of open seats. So we then offered seats to students outside that scope of intervention criteria. Despite adjustments to the summer school program, interest and enrollment has declined at both elementary and middle schools since that first summer of 2021. The students for whom the program was designed have not accessed the summer school at the level that justifies the use of the funds for a fourth year of summer school. The enrollment rate for students who were identified for that 2-week 2023 summer program was 35% of the K-5 students who were invited actually enrolled, and 32% of the middle schoolers who were invited enrolled. Nope, stay on that slide. So this equaled about 580 students of the almost 1,700 students who were invited, which means almost 1,100 students identified for additional support did not actually access last summer's summer school option. So for the first 2 years of the program, there was that strong need and response, but as we move farther away from the pandemic, a need for academic support still exists, yet that steady decline in participation by the students most in need. Our priority is to provide students with what they need, when they need it, and in a manner that's the most accessible. With that in mind, we began to explore how we might reach more of our priority students with responsive, just-in-time interventions during the school year instead of trying to catch up during the summer. Next slide. So moving forward, we will use these funds to support research-based intervention plans at the site level. With LSS approval and support, sites will be able to immediately access funds to provide interventions to students throughout the school year and offer targeted support that is responsive to the students' areas of need based on current student data. LSS plans to work closely with the site multi-tiered systems of support teams to target grant funds to expand and add research-based interventions to support students who are below grade level during the school year with things like supplemental reading and math support and before and after school tutorials. Some examples of other programs that could be expanded through using these funds: increased use and access to impact teachers, push in support for reading and math, maybe double dose of small group instruction, power hour tutorials before and after school, and access possibly to avid tutors to support even more students during class time. So we believe this approach will reach more of our priority students so that interventions are closest to the classroom learning before, during, and after the school day. We recognize that although the funding for summer school was identified originally as one-time funds, which would eventually come to an end, this is still a change for some of our families. So we will work with our school sites to reach out to families regarding the change. We do want to clarify that this change in programming does not affect the opportunity for students to access summer programs offered through ESS, ACES. It does not affect the summer school plans for Valley Elementary School, nor does it apply to any of the high school summer school offerings. Thank you.
Thank you both. Questions, comments? Ms. Couvret.
So I do appreciate that when you see something that's not working or being taken advantage of, you want to reassess and do it differently. So again, my husband works with Kiwanis, and they volunteer at Valley a lot. And I see kids who are in 5th grade who can't count by 7s to 70, and they're going to get pushed on. And they're going to have a bad experience in junior high, and it's just going to be a snowball. I know you're targeting these people. Is it a way to, mandatory is too tough a word, but it's not acceptable because they're smart kids. You know, because it's amazing the improvement they make with just an hour once a week. How are we really able to get these kids who need it to get the help? Because to be in 5th grade at that level, when they've been since, kindergarten at Garden Road, there's a problem, so how are we really going to be targeting these kids and not just pushing them on?
Member Couvret, you've just illuminated one of the challenges with using funds to provide summer school support. We have no control over who attends summer school, yet we have control over the academic programming during the course of the school day. For the student you just mentioned, for example, there may be barriers to that student attending summer school and accessing support over the course of the summer. Many families travel over the summer. Many students are helping siblings at home. Many students or parents are still working and are just unable to transport students to where summer school is occurring. And so by providing this just-in-time targeted support during the school day, we can control those double doses, and we can provide that support by the educators who know those students, right? They're the students that attend the school, and that's where the support would be provided with very specific curriculum versus curriculum that is universally designed as an intervention program. We're really able to drill down into each student's needs in shifting to a model like this.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll go after you.
So, I have two questions for you. One, how are you said 1,500 middle schoolers were sent out roughly? How
No.
are they determined to go out? Or, because you said 1,100 didn't, or was that total?
So, yeah, so of the over 1,600 were identified, of those probably, I'm not doing the math in my head very quickly here, but maybe a few hundred were middle schoolers. It's because you have 3 grade levels worth
Okay.
of students as opposed to 6, 7 grade levels at elementary school.
Who determined and how were they determined that they were to get invited? Because you said you had quite a few, 1,100 didn't respond. Because I know I personally have a child that got passed on that was several years behind and is still several years behind as she's entering entered high school. So I never got an invitation. We would have loved to send her because she had to take math. She had to go in twice a week for the push hour, take a pre-math class, and then a math class.
So I can turn it over to Kimmy Lochtefeld was there
Yeah.
for the origin of the summer school for 2021.
So that's a great question. So we use multiple measures such as iReady, as well as getting the feedback from classroom teachers who they would like to see identified for the program. And so then schools were able to push out the invitations to our students and also follow up to make sure that the students that we were prioritizing those seats for, we had 240 seats at the middle level that we wanted to fill with our priority students. That's what we anticipated. And again, just only a small fraction responded and accessed it. So then that's when we opened it up, and also we redesigned the curriculum too so that there were multiple entry points. So not really sure what happened why your child was not extended an invitation, but we did look at students who were significantly below, not only 1 year, but also 2 years, 3 years below.
Okay, I'm just curious. So I definitely, the pre-math classes in high school are great. I just was wondering, like, because I know several families had that same issue, that we would have loved to fill your seats, and there was no contact about that. So, thanks.
I feel like I'm recalling that early on, we may have funded some impact teachers with our COVID money. Had we done that? At some capacity, yes.
Yes, we
So
have.
that funding stream expired, or we were using it in a different way?
We still have money to fund impact teachers. This would increase the availability of impact teachers so that we can reach more students.
More hours for our impact teachers. So
Yes.
I take it we have some data that showed that was very effective. Yes?
We do. That's site-by-site based data. And so we would capture that data via their increase in iReady scores, which are those regular assessments, local assessments that we give so that we can ensure students are making progress and on track.
Okay, I like the plan. I would have liked to have seen it maybe before summer school 2023, but I'm glad we're doing it now. All right, thank you very much for the presentation. And that is just for information, so no vote. 8.5, approval of California School Boards Association Board Policy 6142.5, environmental education, first reading. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you. The proposed adoption of Board Policy 6142.5, Environmental Education, supports PUSD's commitment to environmental literacy and is aligned to Resolution Number 34-2019 titled Support for Climate Literacy and Leadership. The premise of this policy acknowledges that educators play a crucial role in educating students regarding the relationship between humans and the natural world and the impact of human actions on natural systems. This is a first read only.
Thank you. And Ms. Couvert, I understand we have public comment.
We do. Nupur Balia?
Good evening, President and
Board of Education for the Poway Unified School District. My name is Nooper Bala, and I'm a sophomore at Del Norte High School. I have been a climate advocate for 2 years, and I've worked with local groups such as San Diego 350 and Youth vs. Oil. I have recently been working with the California Youth Climate Leadership Program to develop an environmental education resolution, but that is something I said that PUSD had already passed in 2019. Because of that, I had proposed Board Policy 6142.5, Environmental Education on Climate Change Literacy. As a youth climate leader, I care deeply about the impact of environmental issues and their impact on future generations. This policy action of environmental education in my district is very important to me because climate change and its effects are becoming so much worse, so it is very important that all kids in my community are able to be aware of what is happening and they are able to know what they can do to stop it and make a difference. It is also critical that younger kids are exposed to environmental education so that they are able to grow up with the right mindset about climate change and contribute to making a difference. Therefore, for these reasons, I fully support PUSD in passing this board policy and hope that they will. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate your activism on this one. This dovetails, as you said, very, very nicely with our 2019 climate literacy resolution from back in the day. Any questions from board members?
I would just like to comment that the student, Nooper Bella, actually reached out back in October. We've been working back and forth, and even with our student board member here. So I'm very happy to see this finally come to the board as a first reading, and I like to honor the desires of our students. They are our future, and they're trying to build a better planet for themselves to live in. So I appreciate this dedication of our student, Nooper Bella. Thank you.
And you stayed even longer than our other students, so congratulations. I didn't realize we had one more out there waiting. Since this is a first reading, there's no vote, but is there any other discussion by the board? All right, I know that I, for one, look forward to voting yes next month. Thank you very much. And this takes us to 12.1 board member reports. Let's start down at the end with our student board member, Ms. Trivedi.
Good evening. First of all, I hope everyone, including students and staff, had a great winter break and that everyone is recharged enough to lock in until the next break in February. Last Friday, I attended the Starstruck PUSD Gala, and I really appreciated how much our district appreciates our teachers, administrators, and classified employees. Special shout out to Miss Jenilyn Rose from Westview High School. It was so amazing to see so many familiar faces from elementary and middle school, including Nurse Mary from Sundance Elementary, and just reflecting on how much of an impact all of those people have had on my educational journey. I also want to say happy new semester to all of the quarter system students out there. I hope that as you're starting new classes, you're taking advantage of all the resources available to you to succeed in your classes, including peer counseling and the new counselors that we now have in many of our schools. Also, another interesting thing I learned this past week was that the word school actually comes from the Greek root skole, which means leisure. So I hope that I hope that this semester and as we get into the next half of the school year, you also take time to attend school dances and musicals and plays and make the most out of your high school experience. I'm also really excited that we adopted the board policy on environmental education and the 2 robotics days. I'm always really appreciative of the students who make sure their voices are heard, and I hope this is a reminder to other students as well that your voices are heard and that you coming here does make a difference. Also, I want to shout out that the LCAP, or the Local Control Accountability Plan, the survey that corresponds with that is starting on February 1st, and I hope that students really take the 20 minutes to take that survey, because 20 minutes of your time really means a whole school year of difference for you, because last year, your LCAP survey responses introduced new school menu items. Because of your LCAP responses, we are now implementing a new recycling program, and because of that, more counselors were also hired. So please encourage your friends to take it too, and really make 2024 a year of meaningful learning for all of us. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Ms. Trivedi. Dr. Patel.
And yes, thank you, Ms. Trivedi, for sharing what the real meaning of school is. I'm going to have to remember that forever. Good evening, everyone, and I hope that we all had a wonderful start to the new year. I know it's been really busy for me. Tonight, I will use my time to highlight just a few activities I participated in as a board member, stretching way back to last year, but that means just last December since we met. The last week of school was filled with holiday cheer and meeting needs. I spent a couple hours with the amazing Youth in Transition team helping distribute gifts, supplies, and a little warmth to our families in need. Later that same week, I attended both graduation ceremonies at Abraxas High School, the transition program ceremony and the diploma ceremony. As we've all remarked multiple times over the past several years, these more intimate milestone recognition events are so meaningful because none of these achievements were without significant challenges and barriers. The students who cross that stage at Abraxas do so with all the extra support from staff, volunteers, administrators, families, friends, and sheer determination. Congratulations to those students once again. Just this Friday, I was joined by the whole board and seemed like all of our schools that were present to enjoy a little poolside jazz and a whole lot of celebration at Starstruck, our district-wide awards recognition gala. Many thanks to Christine Peck, our confidential admins, and PUSD Foundation members and volunteers who helped organize this delightful event. And a truly heartfelt congratulations to all of those classified employees, teachers, volunteers, administrators who are recognized for their contributions to Team PUSD and their ongoing dedication to our students. Finally, just today, I joined Mr. Mizell at Shoal Creek Elementary School with their staff on a local school site safety briefing to follow up on safety measures, protocols, and procedures as an outcome of the recent threat that named the school. There was no threat ever to that campus, but it did name the school. Knowing and seeing firsthand that our staff is doing everything possible to prepare for a potential crisis reaffirms my confidence in our safety systems. We are willing to call out our weak links and fix them. Our partnership with San Diego County Office of Ed on these safety walks is truly invaluable. And with that, I'm at the end of my report for tonight. See you back here next month.
Welcome back and Happy New Year, everyone. I attended several things as well as everyone else since our last meeting, but I really wanted to focus on one item. Last week, I witnessed something that left me with a feeling of community that we could all use as a takeaway. I attended RB High physics class annual floating of the boats. I can see some of you have been to them before. There's photos of it on my Facebook page, Plotsky for PUSD. Each group had the exact same amount of thin wood and paper, and they were not allowed to use anything else but sealant of their choosing and paint for decoration. No two designs were alike, but all using different physics properties. The boats were in all different shapes and sizes. The goal was to make it from one end of the diving board of the pool to the other, with one teammate rowing. Some kids had paddles, some teams didn't, and some you just thought, they're not gonna make it. One at a time, they lined up proudly with their boats for their turn. Some cracked in half immediately, while a few slowly sank as their captains kept rowing like an Abbott and Costello scene. Although there was no laughter, even though there was plenty of kids in the crowd because the 9th grade gym classes were sitting watching. There was just applause and cheers of goodwill and yelling, "Congratulations, good job," from the students. While in the boat area, after they dragged the boats out, meanwhile, the rest of the groups were looking at it, examining what could we have done differently if their team wasn't up next. A couple of the boats that we parents thought would go straight down. There's no way this is going to go across. Those were the ones that surprised us the most. Two of those boats not only made it once across, they kept going back and forth and back and forth. Two made it over 12 laps. I lost track. In the end, it was the Little Mermaid boat group, along with all of the other teams that jumped into the problem-solving modes that amazed me most, though. Their boat was the most solidly constructed at the event, but there was some kind of shape issue. Each time, and there were many, that its captain climbed aboard, it almost immediately capsized. It never got soggy. Mind you, again, these are made out of paper. And they would just pull it aside, get out, and get in the back of the line of the boats because they were going to go again. They couldn't figure out why it was flipping. Each time they would try a different way to get into the boat. They sat in different positions, they slid in differently, but again, as they pushed off and they lowered themselves in, it would flip. Finally, as they tried with all the different groups and they put their heads together because now everyone was done but this group, but their boat was still together, they all wanted this boat to make it. The captain tried sitting in the back of the boat, which again, this was the shortest boat. It was very small, square. The captain quickly started making for the other side as she paddled and paddled. But it slowly, as she was at the back of the boat, taking on water, it again sank. They pulled it out again, still no sign of damage, and it looked like a canoe you could go by anywhere. Then they had it. Another team suggested, try rowing it backwards, it'll shift the weight. So, with a new captain, because the other poor girl had been in the boat and in the water about 30 times at this point, the new captain sat in the middle with her knees to her chest because she was quite tall. And it was hard with the length of the boat. She got in and they pushed her backwards. She rowed as fast as she could. It started taking out a little bit of water 3/4 of the way across the pool, but she leaned as forward as fast as she could. The entire crowd was cheering her name. And just as she touched the wall, the boat started to go down. The boat had made it. Yes, all of those kids wanted to cross. Yes, even though that was not a race, they were timing the boats because they all wanted to have the fastest boat across the pool. But by the end of the day, they just wanted everyone's boat to cross, and they would do anything they could to make sure all of their classmates got their boat across. And that ends my board report.
So I attended many of the same functions, so I'm actually going to revisit my goals that I wanted to share for PUSD students. Not so much the district, 'cause I think I'm just going digging for gold or looking for rainbows, but concerning our students, our high achievers, it really concerns me how competitive California universities are and the impact that they have on our students. We need to make sure that our students have the opportunities required to get accepted. We must offer rigorous classes and also dual enrollment so our kids can compete with other high-performing districts. We need to continue to increase the breadth of our CTE pathways for biotech engineering, as well as increasing competition such as coding. Working with universities, we need to support students willing to go beyond high school's offer and easily register articulated college classes. Second, we need to support those going straight to career or uncertain of the direction after graduation. We must have our trades better represented, such as training for plumbing, electricians, and other construction careers. Exposure to these programs give direction to some students who may not know what's next. There is currently an extensive waitlist for auto at Poway High School, where they not only learn about servicing cars, but they learn the soft skills needed in any career. For our students with learning differences, as we focus on inclusion, we need to offer opportunities for them to excel. I recently met with Tony Kraft and the Kitchen Able, and we need to get them the resources that they need so that they can be the leader of the state that they deserve to be. Her comprehensive lessons from Start Smart Farming, developing healthy menus, food preparation, green waste management, and she's put together an incredible culinary council, including corporate representatives, as well as the executive shelf from Lowe's, and also has guidance from UC Davis. She's already raised $40,000 and working with the regional center. This will be an amazing model to be replicated throughout the county and the state. And then finally, I want the quiet student in the third row that no one knows, never acts out, who gets a passing grade. I want them to be recognized and supported. We need every student to have a trusted adult, mentor, and advocate so they feel valued at school. So I want to give a big thank you to our teachers and staff who go beyond their jobs to educate, support, and love our students. And let's make 2024 the best year yet.
Thank you. Okay. I don't know about all of you, but December feels like a really long time ago. I hope everybody had the opportunity to have some fun and respite over the past month. We worked diligently over the 2 weeks off at chipping away at the bucket list of activities our exchange student had put together when she arrived back in August. We're getting there. But it's been fun to be a tourist in our own town. As I reflect on a few of the district events that I was able to attend this past month, I go back to that last week of school. I attended 2 concerts. First was the Twin Peaks Meadowbrook Poway High Orchestra performances. Each school performed individually, then came together for a few songs at the end. Their performances were stunning. I was mesmerized by the talents of these students, particularly the final songs with the collective group for which they had only rehearsed these songs together one time. Later that same week, I attended the holiday band performances by Twin Peaks and Poway High. What I found amazing was that there were students who unfortunately were not able to perform that evening. So teachers and a couple of parents filled in the gaps. It was impressive to see these students and children in the band playing side by side with their parents and teachers. What a special moment for all. I too was in attendance for the transition and diploma graduation at Abraxas. Every graduation that you attend, they're unique, they're special, and it's a significant milestone for the students and for the families in attendance and the teachers. But Abraxas, the way they celebrate their graduates is just, they're able to individualize it and making it just all that much more special rather than, you got hundreds of kids crossing that stage. And so it's so special to be able to attend. Fast forward, here we are, crazy, middle of January. I too was at the Starstruck event celebrating our teachers, administrators, classified employees, and volunteers recognized by their peers for their going above and beyond in their respective roles to bring a better comprehensive educational experience for our students. Thank you for all your hard work, and a special thank you to Ms. Peck and her team who worked behind the scenes to organize this amazing red carpet experience. Earlier this week, I attended the annual Constitutional Challenge at Mesa Verde Middle School, who compete in intellectual joust on the U.S. Constitution. It's an amazing event that they stand there in front of all their peers. They're randomly selected from the 2 top classes. However that happens, I'm not quite sure. 12 kids are randomly selected, and they answer questions on the Constitution. I might have answered 5 correctly. They do it publicly. I understand that, Twin Peaks and Bernardo Heights, he also mentioned that they have a constitutional challenge in 8th grade. So when I have an 8th grader next year, I'm going to sit in and see what they do at their school. I want to give a shout out to a teacher who, one of my daughter's teacher, she went above and beyond last week. My daughter missed the entire week of school, significantly ill, and she struggles in math, and she has a friend in math who her teacher said, call her up. So her teacher FaceTimed with her during class to try to help her. So I just want to give a shout out to Ms. Hall for going above and beyond when their students are not able to attend in person. And then I was able to kind of look through a different pair of eyes this week. As I mentioned, our exchange student, her family is visiting right now from the Netherlands, and one of the assistant principals gave them a tour yesterday at Poway High, and they came back. They were beyond impressed at the comprehensive program and opportunities that our schools have. When they sent their daughter here, they had no idea. She actually had no idea what all the campus has to offer. She knew about the sports, but she arrived 2 days before school. She signed up for her classes and was given a map and said, here you go. She didn't know about auto and the music and the esports. She didn't know about any of that. To say that they were impressed and beyond delighted that their child has had this experience was impressive, and I could feel their energy. And for us, we just kind of take it as like, take for granted. We know we have our kids have all these opportunities, but when they get to see how school is in other cultures, it's kind of lets you look at it through a different lens. So that was a great conversation I had this week. Have a great rest of your month, and with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Dr. Seitzma. December was 100 years ago at this point, but I did get to attend several fun events. The Rancho Bernardo High School Holiday Performing Arts Assembly was just fantastic. A showcase of band and orchestra and choir. Really, really phenomenal work there happening. And the collaboration as well. Like the choir sang with the orchestra while the orchestra played. They don't do that often, except on stage during the spring musicals. So it was very exciting to see. Loved it. RB High's, their music program is on the rise, man. Watch out for them. Mount Carmel's winter choir concert happened this year for the first time in over 20 years because of how trimesters fall. That's mid-semester. They don't have very much, they're mid-trimester, so they don't have a lot of time to prepare for that. But they did a phenomenal job. I journeyed to Mesa Verde, not for the Constitutional Challenge, but for Ms. McCoy's 8th graders, hearing from the 2 Congress members that represent the area, and many of us were there. Scott Peters and Sarah Jacobs, they talked about their pathways to elected office, their work in D.C., and their proudest accomplishments, including answering some questions about how they feel about UFOs, Taylor Swift, what's your favorite song, just checking that it was real and you're not making this up, and Duke basketball. So it's a good thing that the students, trying to get the personality out of these electeds. Our Youth in Transition Winter Grab and Go event was a real treat. I had never had an opportunity to go to one of those before, and it really highlighted our community's generosity and desire to help others. Ms. Hubschmidt and the team over there at Youth in Transition put out the call for blanket donations. They didn't have enough. They were trying to decide if they should spend some limited funds to buy enough blankets for all of the families. And instead they said, well, why don't we just ask and see what the community comes back with? And they got so many donations that they have enough for probably a really, really long cold season and kids losing them or them falling out of cars or whatever happens. They had more than enough, and that's a real testament to our community and how much we care. Just got to ask, and people are willing to step up and be there. I'll stop there, but I attended both of the Abraxas graduations as well, the transition and the diploma graduation, and I really can't add much to what Dr. Seitzma said. They're both wonderful, unique celebrations of wonderful, unique students, and they're heading off to new adventures, all of them. Coming back after break meant our quarter system schools have finals immediately. Eek! That is rough timing, but I was on hand at Westview to see these students de-stressing with the therapy dogs. It's my favorite thing. Shout out to Westview's PTSA and San Diego Love on a Leash Inland chapter for bringing all that puppy love. The kids are down on the ground hugging and loving on the dogs. It's really something to watch them. It's clearly doing what it's supposed to do.
And along with everyone else here, starstruck. What an event. I got to speak on behalf of the board here, and I thanked all of our teachers of the year, our classifieds of the year, our volunteers of the year. Thank them for choosing to make their impact, their significant impacts in our schools and for our kids. And I would add on to that, though we weren't honored specifically. I do want to say that so many in this room at this dais are doing similar work, the same kind of work. We are choosing to make our impact in schools and out there. I'll say there are a lot of people out there doing the same. So I'm going to keep my attitude of gratitude rolling and thank everyone who tries to do right by our children. And I'll close out with the great Fred Rogers. He said, "We live in a world in which we need to share responsibility. It's easy to say, it's not my child, not my community, not my world, not my problem. And then there are those who see the need and respond. I consider those people my heroes." Yes, Mr. Rogers, I love it. So here's to our responders. Thanks. Dr. Phelps.
Thank you, President O'Connor Ratcliffe. I want to start off my report by acknowledging that January is School Board Recognition Month, a time to highlight our school board members' hard work and their important roles that they play in our schools and our communities. Our trustees provide a critical link between schools and the community, listening to and representing their fellow citizens' views and priorities in maintaining and running PUSD schools. They also reinforce the principle of local control over public education, which is an important and highly valued aspect of education in California. The board sets the foundation and the vision for the district, directs resources where they are needed most, and ensures accountability to the community by monitoring progress towards goals. Their end goal, of course, is to support and elevate student achievement in the Poway Unified School District, as we create culture and conditions to empower world-class learners. PUSD is proud to join more than 1,000 school districts throughout California in recognizing the contributions that our board members during School Board Recognition Month. Please join me in a round of applause for our 5 board members, Michelle O'Connor Radcliffe, Dr. Cindy Seitzma, Ginger Couvret, Heather Plotsky, and Dr. Darshna Patel. And I don't want to forget our student board member, Nirja Trivedi. Thank you for your service. It is an honor and pleasure to serve alongside you. While we're on the topic of board members, I would like to congratulate our newest board member, Heather Plotsky, for completing the Masters in Governance program. California School Boards Association offers this 5-course training for all new school board members in California. And over the course of several months, new trustees learn about governance, budgets, policy, community relations, student learning, and much more. Congratulations to Heather. It's my pleasure to present you with this certificate of completion from CSBA. We have a couple of recognitions to present to the board this evening. Please look at your board packet for the full description in 12.2. I encourage you to read them, and in the interest of time, I'd like to highlight a couple. Morning Creek 5th grader Ashton Seeger was selected for the San Diego Police Department's highest honor of Colonel. Out of over 3,000 student safety patrol members at over 100 schools in San Diego, Ashton was selected for her dedication, leadership, citizenship, responsibility, and reliability. Including Ashton, 2 other PUSD students were finalists for the top award, Kalia Navarro from Los Penn and Evan Cox from Sunset Hills. Del Norte High School seniors, Jocelyn Zhang and Araf Aurora, have been named among the top high school scientists in the country. As Regeneron scholars, they will be considered as finalists for the Regeneron Science Talent Search, the nation's oldest and most prestigious high school STEM competition. Congratulations to those students. Last month, over 20 students in Abraxas High School's diploma program graduated in a heartfelt ceremony in front of family and friends. For many students, the achievement was the culmination of a lot of hard work and determination, even in the face of personal challenges. As you'll see in this month's Studio 701 Excellence in Education video, the individual care and attention from the Abraxas staff is what makes the biggest difference in student success.
Students are cooking up a storm in their culinary arts class using ingredients they've grown themselves in the Abraxas garden. The emphasis is on exploring hands-on learning opportunities through the many unique programs offered at Abraxas High School.
It's a really fun class. A lot of the things we do are pretty in-depth, and a lot of it revolves around real-life stuff, so they really give you a lot of things to take home with you.
Abraxas is an award-winning model continuation high school that serves students who may benefit from a more individually focused learning environment, additional support, and flexibility to reach their goals.
Each student essentially has their own sort of individual plan in terms of how they're going to get through their graduation requirements. Our counseling services are pretty intensive. And then we have some pretty innovative, our academic program is different than all of the other high schools in town. We do a competency-based education platform.
This means that students can show their learning in different ways.
I will bring my biology class down to the garden and I'll say, okay, today we're trying to figure out about predicting. I'll predict that the amount of transpiration, which is how plants take up water, will rise this bowl up somewhat. We can plant seeds and do predictions on when they're going to actually germinate.
Growth doesn't happen just in the garden. In music class, students range from beginning musicians to aspiring performers.
It's just contagious, so I feel that you hear somebody else play something and you want to learn it, and then they're teaching each other. So it's just a fun class, and everybody and I give them freedom to do that.
This style of education allows for stronger connections to be built in the classroom.
The teaching is very personal. Every teacher has some sort of relationship with their students, so it's really helpful for your teacher to know exactly where you're at and what your learning style is.
I was a junior taking freshman math, and there was days where I wouldn't come to class because I was just so overwhelmed that I didn't want to ask for help, and I just felt like so down on myself. Coming here completely changed that.
Ultimately, students find a new trajectory filled with possibilities.
I do want to go get my sociology degree, and when I first got to Abraxas, I would say I didn't even want to go to college at all, and I just wanted to get my high school diploma and call it quits.
And for the teachers and staff, graduation has a special meaning.
It's like the best place to work ever. Like, I love teaching, and I've always loved teaching, but being able to teach here has made me love it even more.
We finally found a home at Abraxas, and he found people that believed in him, and he did it. And I'm just over the moon. So proud of you. Thank you.
For the Excellence in Education series, I'm Drew DeSopo, Studio 701.
Earlier this week, we celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. Day. One of his famous quotes is, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" I believe the Abraxas High School staff, as well as Team PUSD, embody this mentality of unselfish service to our students, lifting each other up and paying it forward to make our school community a better place for all. Let us remember, reflect, and look forward to a better 2024. Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Phelps. Our next regular board meeting will be Thursday, February 8th at 6 p.m. right here at 9:04.